arrives on Monday. This is set to bring some unseasonably strong winds, particularly in the north.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
It's the final week to see how you can win big, as there's an incredible £54,321 in tax-free cash to be won. What would you spend it on? The holiday of a lifetime? Or just sit back, relax and remove some of those day-to-day financial stresses? Lines close on the 1st of August, so make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
I'm Michelle Dewberry and this is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Oh, yes, I've got a bit of an update on this. So, you know, Steve Jobs' daughter is getting married this weekend. We talked about it earlier on in the week.
Yes,
Eve Jobs.
They're hiring the entire Cotswolds.
Yeah, we've got more details now.
Oh.
They're taking over the village of Great Chew. And apparently the budget is said to be $5 million. Could be a lot more, though.
$5 million?
Yeah,
because the papers were saying 50 million the other day.
$5 million could be higher.
For them.
But the high-end guest list includes Kamala Harris, Bono, the Kardashians and Princess Beatrice. Rumours as well that David Cameron's been invited.
Oh. But they can't know all these people.
They've invited 500 people. So it's a big wedding.
It's just like...
Apparently the village is in lockdown.
No, it will be.
Yeah, and they're going to Estelle Manor afterwards, which is a big, like, Jacobean manor house in the Cotswolds. Oh. And they've got sniffer dogs out already.
Wow.
It's incredible.
Of all those people, I bet they only know Bono.
But didn't you think...
Everybody knows Bono, don't they?
Well, no, but at least he was involved with Apple. He must have known Steve Jobs.
Was he involved with Apple?
Yeah, because they had all the... Do you remember they had the U2 exclusive iPods and
oh,
things
of course. Yeah.
So he must have known... So he probably knew her as a kid.
Yeah.
I wonder if they're going to give away Apple products.
Probably.
Oh, yeah. You know the
It's a goodie bag. You'll get a goodie bag.
At the end, yeah, like an iPad or
So you've got a goodie bag at your wedding.
Or a MacBook. I know, but you had the free-flowing rosé, which you don't drink.
I don't drink.
Anyway. Did you not try the non-alcoholic version?
Of rosé?
Yeah.
I didn't know there was one.
I covered all fronts.
I didn't know there was one.
Oh, well, you missed out.
I had some non-alcoholic beers.
Well, good. I did provide.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome to the Martin Daubney Show today in a special outside broadcasting from the heart of Sunderland. Today we're at the Gunners Club, an armed forces club for the Royal Artillery Association here in Sunderland. 1 year on from the riots that rocked 18 working class towns across the country. What drove those riots? Could it happen again? I'll be speaking inside here to a host of armed forces veterans with some spicy words to say. What caused the riots? Could they happen again? What do they think of this government's attitude towards the armed forces? And you'll not want to miss their messages to the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer. Special edition, make sure you stay tuned.
And I'm Alex Armstrong. We're bringing you all the latest news, debate and analysis from the GB News headquarters here. Well, moving on, Shadow Home...
It's reasonable for the public to call out and expose criminality where it occurs.
Yes, Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp tells Chopper's political podcast the British public should challenge wrongdoing and criminality. But would you step in to stop a crime? And a landmark Supreme Court ruling today could spark one of the biggest compensation payouts in UK history, as millions of drivers may have been missold car finance. Also, foreign criminals flooding UK prisons. Well, new figures reveal a surge in violent and sexual offenders from overseas. Is Britain paying the price for record immigration. And do you know more about F1 than the symptoms of prostate cancer? Well, a new survey suggests some men can name more drivers than the signs. That's all coming up. And of course, we want to hear from you here. Send in your comments, gbnews.com/you'll say. I'll make sure I get some of them read out during the show. But first up, it's your news headlines with Tatiana Sanchez.
Alex, thank you very much and good afternoon. The top stories. It's been revealed that foreign-born prisoners account for 1 in 8 of the total UK jail population. According to official data published for the first time, the number of foreigners in prisons for serious, violent, sexual and theft offences has also risen over the past year. Conservative MP Katie Lamb told GB News they should all be removed from the country.
They all need to be deported. So the Conservatives actually in Parliament tried to amend the law, the Borders Bill that the government passed earlier this year, to say that everybody who commits a crime will need to leave the country. And I and my Shadow Home Office colleagues tabled those amendments and voted for them. The government voted them down, but there is absolutely no reason to have foreign criminals in the UK.
Reports suggest a Whitehall spy unit has been used by the government to target social media posts criticising migrant hotels and two-tier policing. The Telegraph newspaper claim officials working for the Technology Secretary Peter Kyle have flagged videos with concerning narratives to social media giants, including TikTok, warning they are exacerbating tensions on the streets. Home Office Minister Dame Anna Johnson told GB News Breakfast that free speech is a cornerstone of our democracy and the Online Safety Act protects it.
No, we're not having our free speech monitored at all. And it's absolutely right that people can express their views within the law on social media. What I would say is that the police, and particularly last autumn when we had the disorder in August actually, it was absolutely right that the police should be looking and monitoring what was being put onto social media in terms of organisation of riots and have that information to allow them then to plan what they needed to provide in terms of protecting the public.
The associate political editor at The Telegraph, Tony Diver, who broke the story, spoke to GB News.
Well, the government's policy is that they don't tell social media companies that they have to take posts down. The purpose of that unit is to monitor what's being posted. In some cases, find examples of content that the government finds concerning, in their words, and point out to the companies things that they think might be a breach of their own terms of service. And so the government is able to say in response to this story, well, we haven't told anyone what to do. All we've done is been a sort of helpful pointer service, which has shown you some things that you might want to think about taking down. That's allowed them to try and avoid the accusations that they're directly censoring things.
In other news, 10 men have been arrested over historic child sexual abuse offences in Bradford. The men, aged between 49 and 71, have been interviewed and bailed pending further inquiries. The allegations relate to offences which are reported to have occurred in the district between 1994 and 1997 and relate to 6 victims who were aged 13 to 15 at the time. Elsewhere, the US has announced fresh tariffs on more than 90 countries as Donald Trump's deadline to strike trade deals passes. Tariffs on Canada are increasing from 25% to 35%. The Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney says he's disappointed. And south of the border, higher tariffs for Mexico are being paused for another 90 days, while Brazil faces a 50% levy. Tariffs on the UK remain at 10%. President Donald Trump has described Russia's actions in Ukraine as disgusting and says he'll impose sanctions on Moscow. At least 15 people were killed and hundreds wounded after a barrage of Russian aerial attacks on Kyiv yesterday. Sir Keir Starmer and Volodymyr Zelensky welcomed Donald Trump's new deadline on Russia to stop their stalling tactics and make meaningful progress on a peace deal in a call today. That's according to Downing Street. Earlier this week, President Trump said he would hit Moscow with secondary sanctions and tariffs unless a ceasefire is agreed by the 8th of August.
Russia, I think it's disgusting what they're doing. I think it's disgusting. This is Biden's war. It's not my war. But I said if I get in, I'll try and get the thing stopped. Yeah, we're going to put sanctions. I don't know that sanctions bother him. You know, they know about sanctions. I know better than anybody about sanctions and tariffs and everything else. I don't know if that has any effect, but we're going to do it. Europe is extremely upset. But this is a war that should have never happened.
Jeremy Clarkson has revealed parts of his farm will shut for 2 months due to a TB outbreak. In a social media post on X, the former Top Gear host said everyone at Diddley Squat Farm was absolutely devastated. He later wrote the infected cow was pregnant with twins. Cattle that fail a TB test or animals that have inconclusive results for 2 consecutive tests must be isolated, then sent to slaughter. Clarkson has clarified that the farm is still operational, but they cannot buy or sell any cows. And authorities at Heathrow Airport say a third runway can be built for £21 billion within a decade. The airport has submitted plans to the government for a new full-length runway, but insisted it's open to considering a shorter one. The West London hub is seeking permission to open a new 3,500-metre runway to the northwest of its existing location. This would enable an additional 276,000 flights per year. Those are the latest GB News headlines for now. More news from me in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
And here's a quick snapshot of today's markets. The pound will buy you $1.3278 and €1.1504. The price of gold is £2,522.90 per ounce, and the FTSE 100 is at 9,081 points.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Now, 12 months ago, Britain was on the brink. And Sunderland, August 2024, in the wake of the horrific Southport attacks, emotions ran high and unrest poured onto our streets, including, of course, here in Sunderland. Those pictures there, I saw that earlier on, that high street, a fire-bombed police station, a caved-in civil service area now being rebuilt, the Citizens Advice Centre. But 1 year on, with protests against migrant hotels breaking out all across Britain, once again, has Britain learnt anything, or are our communities more divided than ever before? Well, joining me now from London is our Home and Security Editor, Mark White. Mark, welcome to the show. I'll tell you, up here on the streets, on the dockside of Sunderland, if anything, Mark White, the mood is even more febrile than a year ago. The community here feel ignored, they don't feel listened to, they feel chastised, they feel demonised by our political class. Have we not learned anything, Mark White, in the past 12 months?
Yeah, you're in a beautiful part of the world, I know it well, but it is typical of many communities right across the country who are a world away from the small boat crisis in the English Channel, but they are feeling the effects every day, with many thousands of migrants being put into hotels in their communities and now increasingly being moved from hotels into accommodation, dispersal accommodation, right in the heart of their communities, houses of multiple occupation and the like. On a street near you, a dozen young men. And of course, I think that in terms of the migrant hotels, well, they of course for many people are unacceptable and bad enough, but actually dispersing these young men out to communities, to the very heart of these communities in multiple areas, I think is even worse in terms of the option that the government has decided to embark on. We can bring you some breaking news in terms of the tensions and the protests that you were mentioning there at the top of the show. The Metropolitan Police have just confirmed that they will have additional resources on this weekend in anticipation of multiple potential protests at hotels in the London area. In particular, one hotel, the Barbican Thistle Hotel in Clerkenwell, will have a policing operation in place for a planned protest there that's taking place on Saturday. Starts at 1 o'clock on Saturday at that hotel, organised by members of the local community who are very alarmed at the use of this hotel for migrants who want it abandoned by the government for them to stop using that hotel to house migrants. And there will, as is the way with these things, be a counter-protest as well by these self-styled anti-racist groups that are really there to provoke the other side, to call them neo-Nazis and alike. So they'll be out in force. The Met are going to put additional resources in place there. They're going to put conditions on to keep both sides apart and are warning that if there is any criminality, they will move in to arrest Martin.
You know, what I've realised today, walking around the streets of Sunderland, talking to people, fishermen, people walking their dog, men, women of all ages, military veterans here in the Gunners Club, some things change. And what's changed is this. People are no longer going to be told they're far right. People are no longer going to be told to stay in their lane. People now know where these asylum hotels are in their areas. They're very aware. News travels fast on social media. And I think we're seeing a real change there, Mark White. People were afraid to come out and protest. Now I think the mood's completely changed.
I think you're absolutely right there. This tired old bogeyman of the far right keeps getting trotted out all of the time. And, you know, the government, I don't think, have really learned the lessons from 12 years ago when they immediately branded everyone that was protesting at these events as far right. Again, we've seen it with Epping and other protests that have sprung up with this accusation being put out by obviously those opposing groups, but even politicians and the government, saying that the far right are behind a lot of these protests and instigating them. Well, it's not. These protests have their genesis in the local communities, from people in those communities who are very concerned, often about incidents that have been linked to asylum seekers in a number of these hotels. Allegations, of course, in some instances that are now before the courts. But that's why people have taken to the streets and very concerned about the migrant hotels in their areas. That's not to say that, of course, disparate groups that want to stir up things for their own end don't get involved. Of course they do, but the same is true of the other side. And just to use this lazy handle of the far right every time, I just think just adds to the anger in these communities.
Mark White, I think you're exactly right. I've been hearing that all over Sunderland today, and particularly, I have to say, from a lot of women, again, of all ages, say they genuinely are fearful of their safety. Mark White, I'd miss you on my holiday. I'll be back in London next week. Let's have a drink then. Thank you very, very much. Now let's bring in my next guest. Two guests. I'm joined by the chairman of the Town End Farm Working Men's Club, Paul Shakel, and also the CEO of Veterans in Crisis, Ger Fowler. Gentlemen, welcome to you both. Paul, I'm going to start with you. You run a working men's club. You clearly have your finger on the pulse, what people around here think. I want to ask you directly, let's just cut straight to the chase. What do you think caused those riots a year ago in Sunderland?
I think it's stemmed from, obviously, a bit mis-media, but mostly it's just the people's not getting listened to. They've got major concerns. They're trying their best to air it and do it the political side or air their voices, but they're just not getting listened to, and the frustrations build up and the anger's following that. And at the end of the day, nothing's going to get resolved till the people get listened to, because the members, it's the common talk every weekend. The fear, the streets is not safe. The austerity measures going through, the cuts, the taxing people to the hilt. It's getting two adults in the family, it's taking them to just to keep a roof over their head, and they've got to say what more can they do to the people, and they're wondering why we're sitting back and they're saying what's on the media, but that didn't portray the picture of Sunderland. Sunderland people are good, hard working, loving people. That's got a bit out of hand, but I was there on the day of the protest and it was peaceful. But wherever these come from, the Tories far right, whatever you want to call them, but they've just come in and that's what just rocked everything and turned everything upside down. And for safety-wise, everybody left. But they were just trying to make a statement to the councillors, to the political side. Look, we've had enough of this. We're worried about, like you say, our streets, the immigrants. You've got veterans getting pushed out of buildings to house immigrants. Which way do they think people's going to accept that? It's going down very, very bad, and people's had enough.
Joe Fowler, let's bring in now veterans in crisis. You're in charge of that. We just heard there from Paul Shakel about veterans feeling oftentimes at the back of the queue. What's your take?
Well, that isn't the case in Sunderland, not at all. We've got such a brilliant partnership with the council. Sunderland Armed Forces Partnership, which is the council, Gen 2 housing group, the uni, all the big hitters in Sunderland. We've got such a good partnership. We've just won a gold award at the Soldier on Awards, so we haven't got any homeless veterans in Sunderland. Well, the only time you would have a homeless veteran if you had maybe a breakdown in relationship and then you had to move in.
I spoke to a lady who ran a soup kitchen just down the road earlier on. She told me she's been trying to house a homeless veteran for 6 years unsuccessfully.
Well, I know you're talking about it, she's telling lies. That's not true.
She's not here to defend herself.
Well,
she absolutely says that there is an issue. And you know, we speak to people across the town in terms of the housing stock. Let's get a few slides on the screen if I could. I want to talk about social housing in Sunderland. I think this perfectly exemplifies what's going on here. Let's get these slides on our screen if we could. This is the situation in Sunderland. Sunderland is what they call a city of sanctuary. What that means is the local council is paid money to take asylum seekers in. The town has absorbed 830 asylum seekers in these past few years. On the 21st of July, just 11 days ago, that was paused. The buying up of housing by the local authority was paused because they were at capacity. Now, contrast that with the fact you've got to wait 13 months on average to get social housing in this area if you're a resident, not an asylum seeker. Let's move on now to our next slide, if we could. Next slide, let's get it on screen. Here is the social housing waiting list, an astonishing increase of 523% in 2022 to 2023, and that goes from 1,500 there to the best part of over 9,000. And finally, I think we have one more slide just to sort of bring this home situation. The housing emergency is ruining lives across the North East. That is Tracy Guy, the strategic lead at Shelter North East. Let me come back to you again, if I could, Ger Fowler. The facts paint a very different story to the one you're saying. There is a total and utter shortage of social housing, and the fact of the matter is the local authority is filling them with asylum seekers.
Not ahead of veterans. That was my point of view. Not ahead of veterans at all.
Ahead of everybody?
No, I'm telling you, not ahead of veterans. So we have a partnership with Gen 2, so it works in a band system. So we take homeless veterans, anyone's homeless, and then we have an emergency apartment to put them in. Then they move on to a Gen 2 apartment, and they do a course, and then they get moved straight to the top of the banding system. So I can only speak for veterans, I can't speak for anyone else.
Okay,
going back to your first thing about the soup kitchen woman, 6 years I would challenge her to come and see how that is, because that blatantly isn't true.
Well, that's what she said earlier, and again, you know, she's not here to defend herself.
Maybe we should get her on.
Well, we did have her on early on the show. Let's move on. Paul Shakel, let's get your take on this. We've been speaking to people across Sunderland throughout the entire day, downstairs, on the dockside, fishermen, people walking their dog, and they all say the same thing. They feel their community has been completely ignored. No one's spoken to them. In fact, worse, the Prime Minister called them far right.
You'll get no better than the people that's actually living it. And they are speaking the truth, because I'm witnessing it. I see it every day. But we have got a problem with the housing, there's no doubt. You know, fair enough, they've got to look after these people that's coming from war-torn countries, anything you want to call them. But we're not against that. But you don't put them before the people that's paying the taxes and want to live here, and they've got families coming through, they've got daughters. They can't get on the social ladder because there's not enough. And why is there not enough? They don't need this burden of more coming on, but them seem to be getting prioritised before the people that should be entitled to it.
Joe, do you think that we heard about outsiders coming in? I think we've seen that across the board, across all towns. People from both ends of the political spectrum, certainly people from Stand Up to Racism have been accused of revving up the atmosphere on the ground as well. Do you think that these asylum seeker protests are being used by political extremists to try and cause social disruption?
I don't really know, to be honest. That isn't sort of my area of expertise, so I've never been on a protest. I wasn't here when the riots were there. I was at a festival. I was absolutely disgusted when I seen it, because that doesn't represent the people of Sunderland. Because I've been all around the world, and the community spirit in Sunderland is the best I've ever seen.
Paul, let's get back to you. Do you think that there is any merit in this notion that, well, you said that people came in from outside the area, but people I've been speaking to throughout the area today, they do empathise with this notion. They are feeling utterly sort of disconnected, certainly from central government. They don't feel that however they vote, whatever they do, doesn't change anything.
Exactly. I mean, I think that will change going forward, because people's sons always been Labour held, and people's always been born and bred that way. But I think what the political parties doing now, and what they've done since they've been in government, as you say, what the change is, it's gone down very bad with the members and the people I speak to, and it's even changed my thoughts. So what they need to be doing is start listening to people and start trying to put into place what people's asking for them to do, and unfortunately that doesn't seem to be happening.
Joe Fowler, can I talk to you about the present political regime? What's your attitude about their attitude towards veterans?
Are you talking about
the Labour Party, Sir Keir Starmer?
Well, I'm not a fan of Keir Starmer, but the Veterans Minister, Al Cairns, has been absolutely brilliant to us. He's did a lot of good stuff since he came in. So I can't knock what they do against veterans.
What is in particular that you'd like to commend about Mr Collins' work?
So I've met him a few times. Yeah. He's been up and he's going to start a thing called Valor, which is specific drop-in centres around the country, which would be a great idea. And he's trying to bring all veteran services together in sort of a seamless way, that then it's easier for everyone, because it is a postcode lottery, without a doubt. We do a great job in Sunderland, but maybe somewhere else in the country it's not as easy for them.
And in terms of things like the historic prosecution of armed services veterans in Northern Ireland, I mean, what's your take on that? Because it's a huge talking point.
That is really sort of resonates with me, because I am a veteran of Northern Ireland. So anything like that, I'm disgusted at the government, if that's what they actually bring through. But I don't think Alistair Cairns is for that. So.
OK. Could I get your take? I'll move on back to you now, Paul. Moving forward, it's a year on. 18 towns erupted, and it was a common theme that those towns were left behind. They had higher unemployment, a high level of social dissociation, and crucially a higher level of asylum seekers coming into their community. Do you think things have improved in Sunderland, or do you fear that perhaps history may repeat itself?
I fear history's going to repeat itself, because we live here, we know what goes on, and we know what's happening, and we listen to what people are saying. And in the day the streets are not getting any safer. I've got granddaughters, and they get picked up and delivered. I don't feel safe when my granddaughters work on the street. It's not only about the granddaughters, it's about your wife. I mean, you've got to look at the police, and I'm not saying they'll not be there when you need them, but there's not enough. There need to be more. They need to be on the street. They need to have boots on the ground, because unfortunately our kids in this generation, what is there for them? There's nothing. The austerity measures, they've closed this down, they've closed that down. What do they want the youth of today to do, apart from hang and shop corners? They can't be sitting house on the night. There should be more looked into that, so it'll help their generation, give them something to do, not occupy them, and move on forward in a peaceful manner. Not what they're doing now is, where all you see now is on the media is bikes zooming all over, this and that, windows getting in, cars getting torched. There's got to be something at grassroots what's got to be looked at, and get it driven, so we've got something for the kids.
OK, Joe Fowler, final word to you. Downstairs in the bar here at the Gunners, I've been speaking to a lot of armed forces veterans today. They're feeling very, very agitated about the fact they simply aren't being listened to. Do you think history could repeat itself in Sunderland?
I hope not. I really hope not. I think Sunderland's on the up as a city, and people won't invest in the city if stuff like this happens. So, to me, I really pray it doesn't happen.
And I think we can all agree we don't want to see any more trouble. Gentlemen, excellent start to the show here in Sunderland. Thank you very, very much to you both. And that was the chairman of the Town and Farm Working Men's Club, Paul Shackle, and the CEO of Veterans in Crisis, Joe Fowler. Now, still to come, would you step in to stop a crime? Well, I would. And that's what one top Tory is urging the public. With me, Martin Daubney on GB News, live from Sunderland on Britain's News Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30am.
Only on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6am.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show. It's not a bad brand. Yeah. Uncensored. Very, very, very easy tonight on the unpredictable. What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Hello, this is the Martin Daubney Show from here in London. I'm Alex Armstrong, hosting over here in HQ. Well, let's get started, shall we? Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp says that it's reasonable for the public to call out and expose crime where it occurs.
Increasingly, this, aren't we, on social media, people taking matters into their own hands. Even we heard Nigel Farage say his family member's phone was stolen in Victoria. It ended up in an address in Buckinghamshire. He didn't go and try and get it. But do you think people should do it? It's risky, isn't it, if you become vigilantes in our own country?
Well, I think it's just part of the job for me to try and expose these things.
Should other people do the same as you? Take on wrongdoing?
So I think I think people should be calling out wrongdoing, actually. Okay. I mean, it's up to them to decide whether they feel it's safe, and that's for each person to make a judgment. But I think it's reasonable for the public to call out and expose criminality where it occurs.
Put your camera on, film it.
For example,
yeah, and just say, why have you walked through behind me in this gate, in this tailgating me in a transport situation?
Yeah,
or
yes, I agree. I think violence. I think exposing that kind of thing is important.
Yes, well, would you step in to help stop a crime? Well, let's get more from the man who hosted the show himself. It's Chris Hope. Chris, I mean, look, listen, all very good and well, I think, when you're saying let's crack down, let's get more crime exposed. Is this not potentially putting the public at a little bit of risk?
Well, I think Chris Philp recognises that. He does say, as long as it's safe to do so. So don't be silly about it. But increasingly, there's politicians doing this, isn't there? There's Robert Jenrick filming people going through barriers on an underground and challenging them over paying for a ticket. Chris Philp, he went off to the Hilton Hotel, near the Hilton Hotel in Park Lane in Mayfair in central London, found who he thought people were from Romania and Bulgaria. He wondered why they weren't, you know, why they're sitting there in tents. And the day after, he says, the day after that he was there, they got moved, he says. And there's evidence to say that since Robert Jenrick raised the issue of alleged fare dodging, there's been more signs up, more people stopping it happening. So it suggests that if you highlight things on social media and you've got a profile, it can get a result. But I've got to say, part of the problem, I think, with this is that you can't... I think members of the public doing this, if they tried, A, be careful, don't do it, it's dangerous, perhaps don't do it at all, because I'm not clear whether you've got the backing of the authorities. I mean, if you step in and say, well, that guy was playing his radio too loud in the tube and I had to stop it and then he went for me, I mean... You know, are you provoking him? I think it's a dangerous place to go down. It does show also to me, I think, the lack of certainty and trust we have in authorities. We know we don't bother calling someone if your bike gets nicked, because what's the point? You get a crime number, no one investigates. There's a feeling of they won't bother with it. So yeah. So will they support you if you get involved?
Yeah, shoplifting up hundreds of percent. It is getting bad.
Other crimes down too, Alex, but
True.
certainly shoplifting is a big problem.
Because I mean, we look at the violent crime rise, particularly in big cities. We see things like knife crime rising, and it does beg the question: is someone going to come at you? And I would be worried to pull out a phone and record somebody. But you know, I think when we look at the question on whether authorities would back you, I remember it takes me back to what Tom Harwood was doing on the tube, cleaning up the graffiti. What occurred after that was someone from the Met Police. Forgive me, I can't remember exactly who it was. He was asking questions in the GLA, the Greater London Assembly, and he basically slammed it. He slammed it and said, "No, you shouldn't get involved. You shouldn't be doing this. It's our job." So is this sort of like desire? Yes, of course we want to call it out more, but actually, if you do sort of take any good citizen action, it's too much.
I guess, I don't know about what Tom did there. Maybe if he used the wrong solvent, it might damage the walls. I don't know. I don't know what they mean by that. I mean, frankly, Tom did it from the right place.
Yes.
He thought, I'm sick of this graffiti. I'm going to deal with it myself. And he found some other people also willing to do that to him. I think there's a kind of... It's called, communitarianism. So if the community responds to bad behaviour and shames it, it will end. But I think going out on your own is risky and dangerous, so be careful.
All right, Christopher Hope, thank you very much. Very interesting interview. Make sure you watch it on gbnews.com there. But moving on, we're joined by former Chief Constable of Gloucestershire Police and former Assistant Chief Constable of West Midlands Police, Dr Timothy Bryan. Thank you very much for joining me. What do you make of the Shadow Home Secretary's comments that he wants to encourage the public to take a more active role, perhaps, in documenting crime and bringing it to the attention of authorities?
Well, there's absolutely nothing wrong in the public becoming more involved in reporting crime, gathering such information as they can that will assist the police in the investigation of crime. That is not only, there's nothing wrong with that, that should be encouraged. I think in your introduction to this piece, you've highlighted a lot of the problems which are associated with that, though, which is the physical risk that the members of the public can put themselves in, and can the public feel assured that the authorities, whether it's the police or local authorities or whatever the appropriate agency is, will give them the support that they need. Those are all really practical issues. But the principle of reporting, providing information, giving the police the assistance that they can is sound. And in fact, we have a common law duty to do that. We often forget it because the police and other agencies take this work from us. But going back deep into our roots of society, we've all got a duty to help uphold the law.
Yes, I totally agree with you. I would like to see more people at least get involved in documenting it. I do worry about this rise in vigilantism, though. I mean, it harkens back to a time where I believe, police have been cut. There's lots of cuts to police. We're seeing more of them happen now, particularly in London. Do you think this could just encourage people who could be putting their lives in danger?
Well, there's a very practical way. If local people want to get involved in policing, let's just call it that in its broadest context, there's a couple of practical ways they can do that. One is to join a neighbourhood watch scheme. The other is to become a special constable if they're the right age and have the right physical attributes. So there are very practical ways in which people can become more involved in supporting the maintenance of order in their communities. We've all got citizens' powers. They're enshrined in the Police and Criminal Evidence Act. They're very limited, but we've got citizens' powers. And there is a power under the Criminal Law Act of 1967 to enable us to use reasonable force in the prevention of crime. It's got to be very specifically reasonable. It cannot be grossly unreasonable, in which case, if it is, you're the one who's troubled. So there are these things that are in place and can be used, but there's no need to do vigilantism. We've got the means of community support at our disposal.
Dr. Timothy Brain there, thank you very much for joining me to give us those insights there. And moving on, first up next, it's your news headlines with Tatiana Sanchez.
Alex, thank you. The headlines at 3:30. It's been revealed foreign-born prisoners account for 1 in 8 of the total UK jail population. Conservative MP Katie Lamb told GB News they should all be removed from the country.
They all need to be deported. There is absolutely no reason to have foreign criminals in the UK.
Reports suggest a Whitehall spy unit is being used by the government to target social media posts criticising migrant hotels and two-tier policing. Elsewhere, 10 men have been arrested over historic child sexual abuse offences in Bradford. The men, aged between 49 and 71, have been interviewed and bailed pending further inquiries. The US has announced fresh tariffs on more than 90 countries as Donald Trump's deadline to strike trade deals passes. Tariffs on the UK remain at 10%. And those are the latest GB News headlines for now. More news in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello again, I'm here with your GB News weather update from the Met Office. And now tomorrow's looking largely fine, but on Sunday we have a band of heavy rain pushing through, and then on Monday Storm Floris is going to bring some very windy weather. But for the time being there's actually a ridge of high pressure to the southwest that's pushing its way in, and this is going to lead to today's showers fizzling out and clearing away as we go through this evening and the start of the night, leaving things largely dry and largely clear, the exception being across parts of the far east of England, East Anglia, a bit more cloud here and some showery rain pushing through as well. Elsewhere, where we get those clear skies, it is going to be a fresher night than of late. Temperatures away from the towns and cities dipping into single digits, but across parts of the east of England staying that little bit milder because of the cloud here. And there will be some further spells of showery rain as we go through tomorrow morning, particularly still across East Anglia, maybe into Kent as well. Most other places, though, having a fine start to the day. Yes, a fresher start than of late, but lots of sunshine around, just 1 or 2 showers perhaps. Most of us not seeing any showers. It is looking largely dry. As we go through into the afternoon, we are going to see the cloud bubbling up a little bit, so not quite so much sunshine, but nonetheless there will be some decent sunny spells, and in the sunshine and with generally light winds it's going to feel pretty warm. Temperatures are going to be a little bit higher than today. We're looking at highs of around 24, 25 Celsius towards the south and high teens or low 20s further north. Staying fine for many as we go through the end of the day tomorrow, but towards the northwest there is some cloud that's going to push its way in, and there's some rain ready to arrive as well. This rain is going to be pretty heavy for a time as it pushes its way southeastwards across much of the country on Sunday. It could be a bit thundery at times too, but then Storm Floris arrives on Monday. This is set to bring some unseasonably strong winds, particularly in the north.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The A82 between Crianlarich and Tyndrum is closed due to an incident, and alternative routes are advised. The A40 near Gibraltar Tunnels to Mitchell Troy is shut for maintenance with diversions in place. Delays persist on the A63 eastbound between the A1034 and A15 due to a collision. In Thurrock, the M25 clockwise at junction 30 is impacted by a broken down vehicle, closing 2 lanes. And on the trains, disruptions affect the Elizabeth line between London, Paddington and Reading. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Welcome back to the show. We're at the Gunners Club here in Sunderland, surrounded by wonderful locals. Lovely to meet you, ladies. And of course, we're here today. Right, lads. We're here today because, of course, it's 1 year on from those riots that took part across 18 towns across Britain. Sunderland, of course, being one of them. Of course, wasn't the only town. Aldershot also became an epicentre. The police clamped down, putting a lot of people in jail there, and a huge amount of social discomfort about that. My colleague Jack Carson is on the ground live in Aldershot. Jack, over to you.
Thank you very much, Martin. Well, we've been here all day speaking to local residents to find out 12 months on from that disorder we saw across the country, whether anything has changed. Jez, local resident, joins us now. Now, Jez, you're one of the people that has been organising protests at the local migrant hotel. Why for you is it important to stage those protests? And thinking back to a year ago when we saw demonstrations across the country, does that show that not really much has changed in the way of solving the problems that you see here?
Nothing's changed in the whole year. We've been protesting up there for 2 years now. If I'd say anything, in the last year it's got worse in Aldershot. We try and protest up there at least twice a month. You've only got to look around the town. There's lots of illegal men hanging around. Women, if you walked in the town and asked the women, I'd say 80% of them would tell you they don't feel safe walking around this town. We want to know where these people are going when they've left the hotel, where they're roaming around in the daytime. We've also asked what accommodation they're being put into. We never get answers from the council or for the MP. We're pretty certain people are being housed in flats in the town, but nobody will answer our questions. Surely governments and councillors are there to represent us and help us with questions locals have got to ask.
So when the Prime Minister says he's going to smash the gangs, when they come out with plans to try and stop the boat crossings, say that they're going to take asylum seekers out of hotels, do you believe them? Do you think that plan is credible? Do you think that plan could work and make a difference for places like Aldershot?
My thoughts on Keir Starmer: he couldn't smash an egg. When he opens his mouth, if his lips are moving, you know that some truth's coming out. I've not heard one thing he said in the last year about immigration, about migrants, about illegal boat crossings that I can credibly believe. It's all rubbish. I mean, I sit there looking at the telly in disbelief and getting angrier and angrier every night. Your channel is the only channel that talks about this. Many people just don't believe the man at all. It's time for him to go. He's only been in power a year. Get lost, Starmer.
All right, thank you very much, Jez, local resident there in Aldershot. And of course, a year on, you can hear from the frustrations of Jez there. They don't really feel like anything 12 months on from that initial disorder a year ago, that anything really here in Aldershot has changed.
Thank you, Jack. Now back here at the Gunners Club, I'm joined by two of the regulars. Jimmy, a military forces veteran of 18 years service. Jimmy, thank you for your service. And Gary, 47 years on the ships and the docks here in Sunderland. Both of you real men. Jimmy, I want to start with you. We're here to mark 1 year on from those riots that broke out in Sunderland. What do you think caused them?
It was just... people were fed up and seeing what happened, and the death of 3 children finally brought it to a head that day. The day of the riots in Sunderland started off peacefully. It was veterans carrying their flags with families all supporting each another, and it was agitators coming up from down the south and everything else. We as veterans exposed many faces that day, and after that I just went, it was just madness. It reminded my days back in Northern Ireland, when something simple would just go bang and everyone just wanted to attack everyone else. It wasn't the people of Sunderland doing this, This was left-wing activists, and we exposed many of them. But the news didn't want to hear the story. They wanted the violence and everything that happened after that. And the police were prepared for at least 24 hours before that. The police knew something, but they wouldn't tell us. The police were just there as as the police do these days.
Okay, so Jimmy there quite clearly saying, Gary, that this is outsiders shipped in from the political left, and in fact we're seeing that replicated across places like Epping as we speak. But Gary, back to Sunderland. What's the mood now amongst people here? Has anything improved in the past year, or do you believe it's got worse?
It's not much improvement whatsoever. It's still not listening. The councillors, the Labour controllers, and I'm a Labour bloke as well, by the way, they're just not listening. Nobody's listening. They're not listening to the vast majority, the majority of the people that are just... They're not racist. It's not about what colour, creed or religion you are. It's about people coming out in boats that are illegally coming in this country and are bringing us down, as in we're losing, like we're getting cuts and this and that, and they're getting sorted out. As friends like yourself, they cannot look after our homeless. It's just about that. It's not racism, it's not right wing, it's just common sense people saying that that's enough's enough. We cannot keep just doing this. You're forking out so much money and you're cutting everything that we have paid into, what we're entitled to, that my father, my grandfather and that was entitled to, and you're giving it to people that have no entitlement. They're not even vetted. Why is nobody listening to the vast majority? Can I just say it? I never thought in a place like Sunderland that a Labour Prime Minister who thinks he got in on a popular vote, he didn't by the way, would be more hated than Maggie Thatcher.
And you're saying that as a Labour man yourself, Gary?
Yes. I never thought I would hear that in my hometown of Sunderland, that is Labour, was so Labour, that he would be more disliked than Maggie Thatcher ever was. Now I'm hearing Labour blokes, old-fashioned Labour-style blokes, telling us, I wish we had somebody like Maggie Thatcher in charge.
Yeah. And isn't that an incredible thing to hear, Jimmy? It's like, I mean, around here you want to spat about Maggie Thatcher in the past, but...
He was voted in. They all voted in, all prime ministers, all politicians, they voted in to listen and pay attention to the vast majority, and they're not.
Jimmy, final word to you, and please keep it clean. Daytime television. Have you got a message for Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister?
Yeah, just resign. Take your government with you and just give up, because it made a hell of a mess of this country. A real mess of this country. Let someone in who's going to actually support the British people, and basically that's it. And as a veteran, I'm disgusted, because it's going to open up the past history of shootings and killings and Northern Ireland. He's going to open that up again. Why? We're old men. I'm 68-year-old, and I'm frightened that I might get investigated. Enough's enough. Sir Keir Starmer, protect us, please. It's as simple as that.
Ask him to come and talk to the people. Just ask the people.
Just protect us. We're British, and I make no apology for being British, you know, and that's my only crime. And as veterans and people who worked all our lives, just, hey, look out for us. Not everyone in the bloody world. We just look after us.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for talking to us today on GB News. Thank you for your service. Jimmy, thank you, mate. And thanks for all you're doing, Gary, on the ships there. Proper men, thank you.
Well, no one else sees the fact I've been talking here.
Emotional stuff here from the Gunners Club. Stick with us, plenty more to come from Sunderland for the rest of the show.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
Only on GB News.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
I'm so happy.
Did you watch it then? Did you enjoy it?
I was a nervous wreck.
Yeah.
Honestly. Why did it come down to the crunch like that?
Because it's England. You know what? No matter whether it's the women or the men, it still keeps you on the edge of your seat. But they've got this resilience. The thing is that we've never seen with the men before. I suppose it's changed a little bit, but It really is that. I don't want to use any cliches, but that's
use
my
the
job.
cliches.
That's my job. Never say die attitude. And it was terrific. Do you know, though, for how long, out of the 3 knockout games that England played after the group stage, for how long they were actually ahead?
Go on.
Don't worry, I'll tell you. 4 minutes and 52 seconds across 3 entire games was the amount of time they were actually ahead. Doesn't matter. Doesn't make any difference.
No. Yeah.
They came back and they won it. It was brilliant.
Would it have been better? I was going to say.
Are you looking at
you know, but in terms of if we'd had a stronger game, if we'd been really punching in this rather than it going right down to the wire.
No, I don't think so.
No.
I don't think it really. I honestly don't think it matters. It's just about who wins, and when you've got a trophy. Which is up for grabs there, and also for the second time that the Lionesses have done it. And they were underdogs. I mean,
were they?
Yeah, they were. Yeah. You'll have players that will say, oh, no, I don't think so. And I said to you on Friday, there wasn't much in it, but the Spanish team were the favourites. They're the world champions. And also, pound for pound, if you look player for player, again, there's another cliche for you, they would have been the better side. But it's a team game. It's how everybody reacts together, how everybody plays alongside each other, and the management. And you could see that. And when it came to penalties, there was one side that were going to win it, and I just thought it was us.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Martin Daubney Show with me, Alex Armstrong. Look, I promised I'd read out your views on it, and you've got a lot because you're loving what you're seeing here, and I don't blame you because this is what it's all about, going out across the country, hearing from real people across the United Kingdom. Let's read out some of your thoughts here. Jay has said, well said, that fella. I don't know which one he was talking about. I'm sure possibly both of them. You speak for all of us. Tim from Devon has said, the only thing Starmer has smashed is the trust of the British public. And many of you may believe that at home because when you look at the polls, when you look at where the polls are, a party that's only been around for a few years is now leading them. What does that tell you about trust in our political class, the established two parties? I think that says and speaks volumes, if you ask me. Let's have a look here. Jay, and when we're talking about the topic of Chris Philp asking for people to take more an active role in crime, he says, are we encouraging more people to step in when they see a crime? Does that mean it's fair game to stop the boats? Well, I perhaps document it, but I just be careful to everyone at home, and I really do mean that. You can get yourself into a lot of trouble. One thing I did worry about that Chris Philp interview stuff was, are we trying to turn the public into like a snooper force? Snooper force. I mean, who wants that? That's like China, North Korea-esque sort of government we could be heading to. Sarah Smith says, my husband is a veteran and he is disgusted. These fabulous veterans, Martin GB News, are doing a great job interviewing there. Martin, keep up the hard work. Well, still to come, we'll cross live back to Sunderland where Martin Daubney will be reflecting on last summer's riots. A year on, do people in these communities finally feel listened to? I'm Alex Armstrong, of course, on GB News here. Please keep your comments coming in. We're going to read more out of them in the next hour. Loads and loads of thoughts here. Of course, Martin's going to be speaking to real people across Britain. This is what it's all about here on GB News. Stay tuned. Next, it's your weather.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello again, I'm here with your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Now tomorrow's looking largely fine, but on Sunday we have a band of heavy rain pushing through, and then on Monday Storm Floris is going to bring some very windy weather. But for the time being there's actually a ridge of high pressure to the southwest that's pushing its way in, and this is going to lead to today's showers fizzling out and clearing away as we go through this evening and the start of the night, leaving things largely dry and largely clear, the exception being across parts parts of the far east of England, East Anglia, a bit more cloud here and some showery rain pushing through as well. Elsewhere, where we get those clear skies, it is going to be a fresher night than of late. Temperatures away from the towns and cities dipping into single digits, but across parts of the east of England staying that little bit milder because of the cloud here. And there will be some further spells of showery rain as we go through tomorrow morning, particularly still across East Anglia, maybe into Kent as well. Most other places, though, having a fine start to the day. Yes, a fresher start than of late, but lots of sunshine around. Just 1 or 2 showers, perhaps. Most of us not seeing any showers. It is looking largely dry. As we go through into the afternoon, we are going to see the cloud bubbling up a little bit. So not quite so much sunshine, but nonetheless, there will be some decent sunny spells. And in the sunshine and with generally light winds, it's going to feel pretty warm. Temperatures are going to be a little bit higher than today. We're looking at highs of around 24, 25 Celsius towards the south and high teens or low 20s further north. Staying fine for many as we go through the end of the day tomorrow, but towards the northwest there is some cloud that's going to push its way in, and there's some rain ready to arrive as well. This rain is going to be pretty heavy for a time as it pushes its way southeastwards across much of the country on Sunday. It could be a bit thundery at times too, but then Storm Floris arrives on Monday. This is set to bring some unseasonably strong winds, particularly in the north.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. Road users face challenges today. The A82 is closed at Bridge of Orchy due to an incident. The A40 between Gibraltar Tunnels and Mitchell Troy is shut for maintenance with diversions. In Northamptonshire, a collision on the A45 eastbound has closed all lanes, delaying commutes. The M20 eastbound in Kent between junction 8 and 9 has one lane closed after a crash. In Devon, a collision on the M5 southbound between junction 28 and 29 adds 30-minute delays. And on the trains, expect disruption between London and Stevenage, with Grand Central and Great Northern services affected. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You sound like a broken record. You say that week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to the Martin Daubney Show, live from Sunderland today. Of course, it's 1 year on since riots broke out across 18 working-class towns in the UK, including Sunderland. I'm here in the Gunners Club, a armed service veterans club in Sunderland. I'm with the gaffer, the manager, the owner, Alex. Alex, it's a wonderful, wonderful place. It's packed downstairs full of veterans and their partners drinking away on a Friday afternoon. Tell us about some of the amazing paraphernalia you've got knocking about here.
Well, basically everything is beg stolen, borrowed. That's how we're getting everything. Everything's authentic. It's belonged to somebody who's actually served somewhere along the line. We have some First World War memorabilia, some Second World War, Korea, Vietnam, Northern Ireland.
And there's a parachute regiment there, of course, the armed. And over here we have, are these people that from the area that fought and died?
One of the local areas, this is First World War, people who were killed. And it's unusual because we've actually got a lady's name who was actually killed just over the water through a Zeppelin raid. Her and her brother were actually killed, Patrick's. So that's what kicked us off. We've got one of the councillors actually says that he's going to save this plaque. It was going to get thrown out. It was in the cellar of a church.
It's wonderful stuff.
And he just asked if I would keep it. I went, yeah, no problem.
All right, Alex, it's wonderful stuff. We've got loads more coming throughout the show. I'll be downstairs where the action is, speaking to the locals, veterans, their partners, about the situation 12 months ago in Sunderland, and could it happen again? Now, back to London, and here's Alex Armstrong.
Thank you, Martin. Looks like you're having a brilliant time over there. Of course, I'll be bringing you all the latest news, debate and analysis here from GB News headquarters.
It's reasonable for the public to call out and expose criminality where it occurs.
Yes, Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp tells Chopper's political podcast the British public should challenge wrongdoing and criminality. But would you step in to stop a crime? And a landmark Supreme Court ruling could spark one of the biggest compensation payouts in UK history. That's as millions of drivers may have been missold car finance. And foreign criminals are flooding UK prisons. New figures reveal a surge in violent and sexual offenders from overseas. Is Britain paying the price for record immigration? And finally, do you know more about F1 than the symptoms of prostate cancer? Well, a new study suggests some men can name more drivers than the signs themselves. That's all coming up next. We got through loads of your comments here on Your Say, so don't forget to send them in, gbnews.com/Your Say. I'll try and read out as many of them throughout the show, but now it's time for your news headlines with Tatiana Sanchez.
Alex, thank you very much. The headlines at 4 o'clock. It's been revealed that foreign-born prisoners account for 1 in 8 of the total UK jail population. According to official data published for the first time, the number of foreigners in prisons for serious violent, sexual and theft offences has also risen over the past year. Conservative MP Katie Lamb told GB News they should all be removed from the country.
They all need to be deported. So the Conservatives actually in Parliament tried to amend the law, the Borders Bill that the government passed earlier this year, to say that everybody who commits a crime will need to leave the country. And I and my Shadow Home Office colleagues tabled those amendments and voted for them. The government voted them down, but there is absolutely no reason to have foreign criminals in the UK.
Donald Trump's administration says it's greatly concerned after The Telegraph exposed a secretive Whitehall unit that has spied on migrant hotel critics. The Telegraph newspaper claims officials working for the Technology Secretary Peter Kyle have flagged videos with concerning narratives to social media giants, including TikTok, warning they're exacerbating tensions on the streets. Home Office Minister Dame Diana Johnson told GB News Breakfast that free speech is a cornerstone of our democracy and the Online Safety Act protects it.
No, we're not having our free speech monitored at all. And it's absolutely right that people can express their views within the law on social media. What I would say is that the police, and particularly last autumn when we had the disorder in August actually, it was absolutely right that the police should be looking and monitoring what was being put onto social media in terms of organisation of riots and have that information to allow them then to plan what they needed to provide in terms of protecting the public.
The associate political editor at The Telegraph, Tony Diver, who broke the story, spoke to GB News.
Well, the government's policy is that they don't tell social media companies that they have to take posts down. The purpose of that unit is to monitor what's being posted. In some cases, find examples of content that the government finds concerning, in their words, and point out to the companies things that they think might be a breach of their own terms of service. And so the government is able to say in response to this story, well, we haven't told anyone what to do. All we've done has been a sort of helpful pointer service, which has shown you some things that you might want to think about taking down. That's allowed them to try and avoid the accusations that they're directly censoring things.
Elsewhere, 10 men have been arrested over historic child sexual abuse offences in Bradford. The men, aged between 49 and 71, have been interviewed and bailed pending further inquiries. The allegations relate to offences which are reported to have occurred in the district between 1994 and 1997 and relate to 6 victims who were aged 13 to 15 at the time. Elsewhere, the US has announced fresh tariffs on more than 90 countries as Donald Trump's deadline to strike trade deals passes. Tariffs on Canada are increasing from 25% to 35%. The Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney says he's disappointed. And south of the border, higher tariffs to Mexico are being paused for another 90 days, while Brazil faces a 50% levy. Tariffs on the UK remain at 10%. President Donald Trump has described Russia's actions in Ukraine as disgusting and says he will impose sanctions on Moscow. At least 15 people were killed and hundreds wounded after a barrage of Russian aerial attacks on Kyiv yesterday. Sir Keir Starmer and Volodymyr Zelensky welcomed Donald Trump's new deadline on Russia to stop their stalling tactics and make meaningful progress on a peace deal in a call today, according to Downing Street. Earlier this week, President Trump said he would hit Moscow with secondary sanctions and tariffs unless a ceasefire is agreed by the 8th of August.
Russia, I think it's disgusting what they're doing. I think it's disgusting. This is Biden's war. It's not my war. But I said if I get in, I'll try and get the thing stopped. Yeah, we're going to put sanctions. I don't know that sanctions bother him. You know, they know about sanctions. I know better than anybody about sanctions and tariffs and everything else. I don't know if that has any effect, but we're going to do it. Europe is extremely upset. But this is a war that should have never happened.
In other news, Jeremy Clarkson has revealed parts of his farm will shut for 2 months due to a TB outbreak. In a social media post on X, the former Top Gear host said everyone at Diddley's Squat Farm was absolutely devastated. He later wrote the infected cow was pregnant with twins. Cattle that fail a TB test or animals that have inconclusive results for 2 consecutive tests must be isolated, then sent to slaughter. Clarkson has clarified that the farm's still operational, but they cannot buy or sell any cows. And authorities at Heathrow Airport say a third runway can be built for £21 billion within a decade. The airport has submitted plans to the government for a new full-length runway, but insisted it's open to considering a shorter one. The West London hub seeking permission to open a new 3,500-metre runway to the northwest of its existing location. This would enable an additional 276,000 flights per year. And those are the latest GB News headlines. For now, more from me in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
And here's a snapshot of the markets. The pound buying you $1.3278 and €1.1504. The price of gold, £2,522.90 per ounce. And the FTSE 100 is at 9,081 points.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Thank you, Tatiana. Welcome to Sunderland and the Gunners Club. We're here today, of course. It's a busy, busy Friday afternoon. 1 year on to mark the civil unrest that happened, of course, across 18 working-class towns across the nation, Sunderland being one of them. A lot of people felt that's because the local people have been ignored for too long. They've been chastised as far right by the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, out and about on the streets of Sunderland today. I've spoken with men and women of all ages. They all say the same thing. They're sick of being labelled as racist. They're sick of being told their opinions don't matter. I came here today to find out if the temperature has cooled off over the past years. And I'll tell you this, I don't think it has. Everywhere you go in this town, they're saying they're simply fed up and they want change. Part of the big problem, of course, this is an area that's had a disproportionately high amount of asylum seekers foisted upon it. It's a city of sanctuary. That means over 800 asylum seekers have been put here without anybody in these communities ever having a say. Now let's bring in my colleague Mark White, our Home and Security Editor. Mark, welcome to the show. It's always a pleasure. In Sunderland, Mark, if anything, I'm thinking this: the temperature is rising. And Mark White, it's the same across all of Britain with fresh protests breaking out.
Well, it absolutely is, and the latest word we're getting is confirmation from the Metropolitan Police that they will have extra resources on this weekend because of the potential for more protests at migrant hotels in London. One in particular, the Barbican Thistle, which is in Clerkenwell, in Islington, in the central to North London area. There's a protest that's planned for 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, a locally generated protest, but the Met say that there has been some outside interest, so they expect that there will be significant numbers attending that protest. And as is the way with these protests now, there will be a counter protest from these self-styled anti-racist groups who are there effectively just to shout at the other side, call them Nazis and racists, and just up the tensions. So that's going to require a policing element on both those protests. They're going to be kept apart, but the Met say they will be within sight and sound of each other, so they will still be able to sound off at each other, but they will be the subject of significant police resources, the Met say, to ensure that there is no criminality. And then, of course, just yesterday at another hotel near Heathrow Airport, the Stanwell Hotel in Spelthorne in Surrey, there was another protest locally arranged with dozens of people there at a migrant hotel, Martin, which had until now housed families, and the local community were, you know, to say happy is probably inaccurate, but were willing to put up with the hotel being used to house families. Now they've been told it is going to be a hotel that will solely house young migrant men. The community, understandably, very upset at that prospect, so they've protested. And as I say, a number of other protests, not just in the London area, but right across the country, expected this weekend. We're back in the territory of frequent migrant hotel protests. You'll remember, Martin, because we covered them together. About 2 or 3 years ago, there were very regular migrant protests that sprang up because this was the new tactic that the previous government had adopted to house these asylum seekers. But then it kind of died down. People, you know, really got used to them. The heat was taken out of the situation, and we didn't really see big protests outside the asylum seeker hotels again until Southport a year ago, and of course that sparked more protests outside asylum hotels, and they've really continued on and off ever since. But they've gathered momentum because of a number of incidents that have taken place outside various hotels, Martin, that have really brought about a great deal of concern amongst local people.
Mark White, something I don't think we've heard enough about in the mainstream media is the backdrop of what's going on in these towns. 17 out of 18 of the towns that experienced riots were the most socially depraved areas in Britain, and crucially had a disproportionately high amount of asylum seekers foisted upon them. I've got a few graphics, Mark, I'd like to put on screen. I'd like to get your reaction to them. Let's get to the first one, particularly about Sunderland here. Sunderland is described as having a social housing emergency. You can see there 830 asylum seekers in social housing, and as of 21st of July, just some 10 or 11 days ago, they decided to pause that because the local council said it's time to stop buying local property and turning it into asylum schemes because we've reached capacity. Well, thank you very much. But that means there's an average of 13 months, Mark, 13 months. That's the average waiting time for locals trying to get onto the social housing ladder. Next slide, if we could. Social housing waiting list now has increased by an astonishing 523% in 1 year alone, going up from 1,483 to over 9,000. A massive backlog of people from the area. And my final slide there, this is from the strategic head of Shelter North East, Tracy, who says this: the housing emergency is ruining lives across the North East. Mark White, this is the conversation you don't hear on any other media channels apart from GB News. Quite simply, all of the housing around here is being hoovered up by the government, by mayors, by Serco. It's being prioritised to asylum seekers. The locals are at the back of the queue, and people in places like the Gunners, they're not happy about it.
No, and you couple that, of course, with the likes of the inability to get a GP appointment, a proper place in a school local to you, all kinds of other elements, strains on the social fabric of communities. But housing, of course, is right up there because with the exception of those in extreme emergency, those perhaps who are going through physical, marital abuse, and even then it's not guaranteed that they'll get emergency accommodation. Those from the local area go to the back of the queue because the priority from central government, as imposed on these local authorities, is to get the asylum seekers housed in dispersal accommodation. And it's not just, of course, the accommodation that the councils have control of, Martin, it's other private accommodation. So you've got all these companies now working on behalf of the Home Office to go out there and to buy up effectively from the private sector houses of multiple occupation, houses that might have been very useful to the working population in an area. They are not now available, and increasingly so, because this is the journey that the government now wants to embark on, get people away from hotels and get them in to accommodation that is within the housing sector. So that tension in local communities is only going to grow.
Thank you, Mark White, and it's getting warm here in the Gunners. I might need a cold drink in a minute. Mark White, superb stuff. Thank you very much. Let's now dig into the politics of the area. It's important to point out Sunderland has been basically Labour forever. Sunderland Central, the seat where the aggro kicked off a year ago, has had a Labour return since, well, forever, with a brief dalliance in the 1950s when it was a Conservative swing area. This is a Labour heartland. I spoke to Gary, a shipbuilder of 47 years previously, who told me today he'd voted Labour all of his life, and now he just wants the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, to resign. Let's bring in my next guest now, and that is Chris Aynon. He is the Reform UK spokesperson for Sunderland. Chris, welcome to the show. This is an area where Reform came second, I believe, in the general election. One of those 98 seats, probably you'll fancy having a dig at the Labour Party on. Tell us about the changing political landscape around here in Sunderland.
The change has been quite remarkable. In the space of 2-3 years, we came from polling 6% locally in the locals to 13%, and then finally almost 30% in the general election just gone. So I've never seen anything like it in the space of about 2 or 3 years. Our support has grown exponentially, but at the same time of that, we have saw a large movement of asylum seekers in Sunderland, almost in tandem. It's went up almost as exponentially as our results locally.
And Chris, can you explain to people who might not have heard of the City of Sanctuary scheme how it works? Ostensibly, as I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, this is councils deciding to accept asylum seekers in. They get paid per capita for that, and they get paid by the government to buy up housing to supply asylum seekers. Is that correct?
The main issue that we had with City of Sanctuary was that the public were never consulted. Yeah. It was voted in by the Tories and Labour locally. There was no consultation with locals. But as you said, it's a massive pull factor on asylum seekers coming to Sunderland. We've already got a huge housing shortage here. GP waiting lists, school places. We are really at the brink right now, and this has just been a huge pull factor. And our main situation was that we think the public should have been consulted on that before making such a huge change to the city irrevocably.
And Chris Aynon, 1 year on, how do you think the temperature has changed here? It's getting warm in the gunners, but out there on the streets, I've been speaking to people all across Sunderland earlier on today, they seem pretty fed up. In fact, it seems pretty much the same as it was a year ago.
I think the main issue is that time and time again people have voted for less immigration with things like Brexit, huge vote for the Reform Party locally, and I think the situation is when people aren't actually getting a democratic result, unfortunately some people will resort to undemocratic means and violence and things like that. But the bigger backdrop, Sunderland has had a huge deindustrialisation in the last 30-40 years. There's been a lot of jobs going overseas, and a lot of people in the area, the national life expectancy is actually substantially lower in Sunderland. So I think, unfortunately, when despondency and despair happen, unfortunately, if the underlying issue isn't sorted, we are only destined to repeat ourselves, as we've seen in Epping and Ashfield. So it was a real shame that that did happen, but unfortunately, I think we haven't solved the underlying problem.
Okay, Chris, Ireland, thank you very much for joining us. Now, earlier on the show, I speak to a guest, Ger Fowler. He's the CEO of Veterans in Crisis. Here's what he had to tell me.
We've got such a brilliant partnership with the council, Sunderland Armed Forces Partnership, which is the council, Gen 2 housing group, the uni, all the big hitters in Sunderland. We've got such a good partnership. We've just won a gold award at the Soldier on Awards, so we haven't got any homeless veterans in Sunderland. Well, the only time you would have a homeless veteran if you had maybe a breakdown in relationship and then you had to move in.
Okay, meanwhile, back at the bar here at the Gunners, I'm in the glamorous section. I'm in the ladies section. I want to take the temperature. There's one over there. On a serious point, darling, what's your name? And I want to ask you, a year on from those riots in Sunderland, do you think things have got better or got worse? First, what's your name?
I don't belong to Sunderland.
All right, go on. Don't spoil the question.
Definitely got worse.
Why do you think that is?
The amount of people that's coming in here and living in asylum seekers and things like that. I think a lot of the problems is with them.
Yeah.
I do.
Diane, what's your name? What's your opinion?
Linda.
Linda.
Well, I agree with Elaine, actually. I think it's getting worse. Sorry.
What is it you think is getting worse? For example, we hear a lot about women are scared of their safety. That's something that bothers you and your friends?
Yes, well, this lady here, she was just saying that she's actually frightened that her daughter, she tells her before she goes out which buildings to avoid on her journey, you know, to and from home. So.
Okay. All right, let's bring it now. What's your name, darling?
Ellie.
And tell us about what your buddy just said there about your concern about your relatives.
My concern is my daughter's at university, and I've told her no go zones. I'm 55. There's certain places in Sunderland I cannot go after 6 p.m. at night.
I mean, you pay your tax all your life, you're part of the community.
I'll tell you what makes me feel, really. Doesn't bear thinking about. Doesn't bear. So I'll tell you why. Labour government has lied, and still friggin' lying. And I'm sorry. I went from a Labour supporter who used to deliver letters for Bridget Phillipson to go into reform to, as far as I'm concerned, safety on the streets. Put the veterans first, not immigrants. I just think, oh, my granddad was a Labour councillor. He would honestly, thank God he's not to see what's happening in this bloody country. And I'm all for the free world and everything, but what do? We need Nigel Farage in power to be the Prime Minister. We do.
Because you see, I believe we are a Judeo-Christian country.
Yeah.
And J.D. Vance said yesterday that we're committing societal suicide, and I completely and utterly agree with that. I believe that as a Christian, I am a born-again Christian. That's our foundation. We need to concentrate on it and we need to pursue it because it informs everything. Without that fundamental foundation, everyone thinks everyone is selfish. Everyone thinks that whatever they want or desire or think or want to do, they can do. There is no filter, you know? And it's chaos. So what we see out there is chaos. That's how I feel about this city and all of our cities.
Ladies.
You know, Chris Rea said at one point on an ancient album that we were going to hell in a handcart, and he was right.
Well, ladies, thank you so much for speaking to us today from the Gunners. You got me choked up already. I think I need a stiff drink. You're already going there, Dawn, but thank you so much.
I'm thinking about my daughter. I'm thinking about my daughter. I'm thinking about next door's neighbour's daughter. You know, and nowhere safe. I shouldn't have to be in the house after 6 o'clock at night because I don't feel safe.
Okay, ladies, we have to leave it there. Thank you so much for talking to us on GB News today. Amazing stuff. Please stay tuned. Simply mind blown here in the Gunners Club in Sunderland.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we are proud to stand for you, for the Britain you love, for the communities you live in. That's what makes us the fearless champions of Britain. Its voices and its values. Because we, at GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Welcome back to the Martin Daubney Show with me, Alex Armstrong, here at GB News headquarters. We'll be going back to Martin not that much for a longer time, so stay tuned if you're looking for more of those brilliant interviews. I just want to read a writer's reply from the Home Office based on the stuff we've been talking about just before the break there. The Home Office response to housing asylum seekers in hotels in Sunderland is this. The government is reducing expensive hotel use as part of a complete overhaul of the asylum system. From over 400 asylum hotels open in summer 2023, costing almost 9 million a day, there are now less than 210, and we want them all closed by the end of this Parliament. We continue to work closely with police and community partners across the country and discuss any concerns they have. The security of the local communities within which these hotels are located will always be our first priority. Well, you've all been writing in to us about this, these brilliant interviews that Martin's doing up in Sunderland. Chippy says, you're doing a great job, Martin. If you're listening, the voice of the people is everything, and that's what we're here to do. That's all what it's all about here at GB News. Joe Average says, go girl, speak your mind, talking about those lovely ladies there who were getting their thoughts and voices heard. Katie says, wow, these ladies are giving me goosebumps, sums everything up perfectly. Brilliant stuff. More of that to come very, very shortly. But moving on, Shadow Justice Secretary Robert Jenrick says mass migration is putting British women and girls in danger. New data shows 40% of sexual assaults committed in London last year were by foreign nationals, who also account for 1 in 8 of the total prison population. Is it right that foreign offenders are taking up prison spaces? Well, we can now speak to human rights lawyer Shahab Khan. Shahab, thank you very much for joining me. This must be like round 2 we've had this week. Robert Jenrick's right. Surely we should be deporting foreign criminals. They have no place to be remaining in this country.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's a lot to unpack in that, that one sentence. And that's the thing, media politicians, we're really fond of sound bites and slogans and rhetoric. Without actually looking into the background of anything. So, I mean, just looking at the figures that came out today about the prisoners and, the composition of prisoners in our jails. So, I mean, firstly, just to say generally, if we're talking about, for instance, the Times headline said people born abroad. So if that's what we're talking about, people who were born overseas, then they are generally underrepresented, in fact, in prison. So there's about 16 to 17% of our population born abroad, whereas only 11 to 12% of prisoners were born abroad. So I'm not really sure, what the point is that they're trying to make there. But
well, I can tell you the point they're trying to make is that why aren't any of them in prison whatsoever? It doesn't matter whether it's 1%, 2%. If they're foreign criminals, they should just be deported from this country. It doesn't matter what the percentage is. It's just, you might say it's just a headline, but it talks to the fact that we can't deport people who shouldn't be here.
Well, there's lots to say. Firstly, the unfairness, injustice in the system generally. For instance, those people, it's just harder for them to get bail because judges aren't satisfied. They might have strong ties in the country that they won't abscond or run away. And therefore, even pending trial, even before they're convicted or sentenced, they actually spend much longer in prison than British people. And similarly, once they've completed the criminal sentence as well, they then remain in jail pending deportation. And I think that's just, very, very unfair in the system. That, in fact, if you're not
what's
British...
unfair? You commit a crime, right? You go to prison. I think most people in this country would say, don't put them in prison, send them back to the country they came. I don't understand why you can't understand this point, that most British people would agree that they shouldn't be here in the first place, let alone whether they're being treated unfairly. What's unfair is that we've welcomed them into this country often and that they abuse our system.
No, well, it depends what you mean. Firstly, okay, there's two completely separate things. One is don't send them to prison at all, just deport them. And secondly, yes, which the government seems to be doing and others say, is actually, they go to prison first and then we keep them in prison pending deportation, which is obviously, completely unfair, which I think everyone would agree that basically a non-Brit ends up, spending double the time in prison, twice the time as a British for the same offence. So obviously
I don't care. They're foreign criminals. Why should we care how long they spend in prison? Don't come to the country and commit a crime, Shahab. What about this is so difficult for you to understand?
What's difficult to understand is that we need to have the same the same sentence for the same crime. It doesn't matter where you're from, who you are, what the colour of your passport is, what the colour of your skin is. I think that's a really straightforward thing. I just don't see why two people commit the same crime. One is free after 1 year, goes back home to his family, and the other one is still in prison 3 years later. Of course, that's
waiting for deportation.
I just don't see how we can defend that.
Well, I'm not defending it. I think they should be deported immediately. They should spend prison time in their own countries if they've come here and committed a crime, Shahab. I think most people would agree with me on that. However, the fact of the matter is, if they are committing crimes, they shouldn't be here in the first place, and no one's going to feel any sympathy from them. Very briefly, would you like to respond, and then we've got to move on?
Just really quickly, obviously, in terms of deportation, of course, so many of them do get deported. And this government, as it keeps reminding us, is deporting so many more people than others. So obviously, there are all sorts of reasons that people can't be deported. But that doesn't mean we have to keep them in prison as long as they can't be deported. If we can't deport them, then just release them.
OK, thank you very much for joining me, Shahab Khan there. As always, fiery debates as human rights lawyer. We'll see you again very soon. There's lots more still to come between now and 5 o'clock, including more. We'll be heading back to Sunderland, of course, with Martin Daubney as they reflect on 12 months of turmoil in Britain. But first, your news headlines with Tatiana Sanchez.
Alex, thank you. The headlines at 4:30. It's been revealed foreign-born prisoners account for 1 in 8 of the total UK jail population. Conservative MP Katie Lamb told GB News they should all be removed from the country.
They all need to be deported. There is absolutely no reason to have foreign criminals in the UK.
Reports suggest a Whitehall spy unit is being used by the government to target social media posts criticising migrant hotels and two-tier policing. 10 men have been arrested over historic child sexual abuse offences in Bradford. The men, aged between 49 and 71, have been interviewed and bailed pending further inquiries. The US has announced fresh tariffs on more than 90 countries as Donald Trump's deadline to strike trade deals passes. Tariffs on the UK remain at 10%. And those are the latest headlines for now. More news at the top of the hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello again, I'm here with your GB News weather update from the Met Office. And now tomorrow's looking largely fine, but on Sunday we have a band of heavy rain pushing through, and then on Monday Storm Floris is going to bring some very windy weather. But for the time being there's actually a ridge of high pressure to the southwest that's pushing its way in, and this is going to lead to today's showers fizzling out and clearing away as we go through this evening and the start of the night, leaving things largely dry and largely clear, the exception being across parts of the far east of England, East Anglia, a bit more cloud here and some showery rain pushing through as well. Elsewhere, where we get those clear skies, it is going to be a fresher night than of late. Temperatures away from the towns and cities dipping into single digits, but across parts of the east of England staying that little bit milder because of the cloud here. And there will be some further spells of showery rain as we go through tomorrow morning, particularly still across East Anglia, maybe into Kent as well. Most other places, though, having a fine start to the day. Yes, a fresher start than of late, but lots of sunshine around, just 1 or 2 showers perhaps. Most of us not seeing any showers. It is looking largely dry. As we go through into the afternoon, we are going to see the cloud bubbling up a little bit, so not quite so much sunshine, but nonetheless there will be some decent sunny spells, and in the sunshine and with generally light winds it's going to feel pretty warm. Temperatures are going to be a little bit higher than today. We're looking at highs of around 24, 25 Celsius towards the south and high teens or low 20s further north. Staying fine for many as we go through the end of the day tomorrow, but towards the northwest there is some cloud that's going to push its way in, and there's some rain ready to arrive as well. This rain is going to be pretty heavy for a time as it pushes its way southeastwards across much of the country on Sunday. It could be a bit thundery at times too, but then Storm Floris arrives on Monday. This is set to bring some unseasonably strong winds, particularly in the north.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The A82 is closed at Bridge of Orkney. Alternative routes are advised. The A40 is fully closed between Gibraltar Tunnels and Mitchell Troy for maintenance, with diversions. In Essex, the A12 northbound is congested between junction 18 and 20A, causing 50-minute delays. On the M20 eastbound in Kent, one lane is shut due to a collision between junction 8 and 9. The M5 southbound in Devon faces delays due to an accident, affecting one of 3 lanes. And on the trains, Grand Central and Great Northern services are disrupted between London and Stevenage. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
And welcome back to the Gunners Club here in Sunderland. Gotta say, this is a wonderful crowd here of locals. Many may have served in the armed forces, all the relatives and their friends did. Proud patriots, proud of their town, or at least they were, to cause those riots 1 year ago. We're here today to try and take the temperature Have things improved on the ground, or are things getting, frankly, worse? Let's talk to my next guest now. Anthony Devine joins me, and also Dorothy Welsh. Anthony, let me start with you, sir, please, if I could. A year ago, we saw those scenes where the police station was set fire to. The Citizens Advice Bureau was caved in, and a lot of people thought they were images that didn't bring a great deal of pride upon the town. Tell me your opinion.
That was disgusting, but I'll tell you what, the proper people of Sunderland came out the next morning and cleared everything up. Everybody, and they cleaned everything up. They're the proper people of Sunderland.
Now, Anthony, I'm hearing a lot today from a lot of people who were at those riots a year ago, or they know of people who were there, and they believe that people were shipped in from outside the area to cause trouble. Is that your opinion too?
Maybe. Could be, yes.
So what you're saying is the real people of Sunderland, they came afterwards to clean up the mess?
The real people of Sunderland, the day after. When they're down the town, they tidied the town up, brought the town back where it was.
Okay, Dorothy Welsh, let's bring you in now, darling. What's your opinion about those scenes a year ago? And more to the point, do you think things have calmed down?
Disgusting. It was disgusting, wasn't it?
Yes.
You know what I mean? We don't expect anything like that, you know what I mean? But as you say, you've got the bloody villains on you. Don't give a monkeys about anymore. I'm not going to swear.
Well done, thank you for that.
But they're horrible, aren't they? You know what I mean?
So
the proper people of Sunderland.
I want to ask you about the kind of people that are in this club today. A lot of them fought for the army. Are you a former serviceman yourself, sir?
Pardon?
Are you a veteran?
Yes.
Tell me about your service, if you don't mind. And I want to
find. Sorry, no, I'm not a serviceman.
Okay, let me ask you about patriotism, because we heard in the aftermath of those riots, Sir Keir Starmer called people far right. Do you think would you call yourself and the people of Sunderland far right?
I wouldn't. I don't know what you mean by that, but one thing I would like to say, if you're talking about Mr. Starmer, to me,
he doesn't care.
3.5 million people wouldn't have voted for him when they stopped our eating allowance.
Yeah. So the winter fuel allowance is something that bothered you. May I ask both of you, I mean, a lot of people around here for many, many years have voted for the Labour Party. Are you former Labour people yourself?
Yes. So we're Labour.
Yes.
We're after
I've always been Labour. Always been Labour.
He shouldn't have gotten in.
And are you still Labour, or you might change your minds?
Oh, I'm not going Labour now.
Why not?
It's just, everything he's done is absolute terrible.
He said he was going to look after the old people, look after the people. He hasn't. He hate the old people. Right. 3.5 million people, pensioners, got the hate. Winter fuel allowance stopped. Now, if he'd said that before the election, he wouldn't have gotten in.
Okay, we have to leave it there. Thank you very much. Anthony Devine, Dorothy Welsh, pleasure for your company. Thank you very, very much. I'll buy you a drink in a minute. Thank you. Let's bring in my next guest now. I'm joined by Billy Shergold. Billy, thank you so much for coming in, mate, because I bumped into you earlier on down at the National Glass Centre there, and you came straight up to me, you recognised GB News, and you want to talk to me about a problem that Sunderland has, and that's multiple occupation housing.
True. I live in an area now, Roker. Right, I'm born and bred down Roker. Right, I used to do the paper round up and down Roker Avenue and the milk round.
Yeah.
And it was a day's res. Right, that's where all your lawyers, etc. lived. And I was brought up, and I fought my way up, and I bought my own house, and I thought I've made it. Now, in the past 15, 20 years, it's gradually gone further and further and further down because of slum landlords.
Yeah.
They're buying the properties, lovely Victorian houses.
Yeah.
They're tearing the insides out from the top to the bottom, putting extra floors in and put them into multiple flats, allegedly flats.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, this has gone on for the past 25 years, right? But it's getting worse. Now, a few years ago, we used to have a thing called the Roker Eye, and we were complaining to the council about all these HMOs, and they kept ignoring it. And a certain slum landlord used to go in, tear them out, put the new, then ask for retrospective building planning permission.
And can I get from you, Billy, the sort of the types of people that have been moved into these slum houses?
Yeah. Well, you've got what I would call people that's been in prison. They call them halfway houses and that now. So you get them in. You've had the asylum seekers coming in. At the moment, we've got an influx of our coloured brothers, blacks, Asians, and Eastern European. Now, in the past 2 years, well, 12 months actually.
Let's be careful about saying things like coloured brothers. Right. We are on a working men's club on a Friday.
Yes,
but on a serious point, the point you're making is these aren't people from the immediate area. They're being shipped in. They're packing out the houses and they're pushing up the rents. And
well, my house is bought, where I've lost half the value of my house.
Right.
Due to this.
Because of your neighbours.
Well, it's because of what's happening to the street. Now, a couple of months, about a year back, 2 young girls was dragged in off the street in broad daylight and raped. Right? Now, there was an uproar on it, about it. And the police sent one policeman down to do a community meeting. There was 250 of us turned up, and they only had room for 200. The Salvation Army had to come in and open the Salvation Army base in Roker Avenue to get everybody in. Then all of a sudden you had the mayor, you had the chief constable, etc., coming in there trying to calm the place down.
Yeah.
And there would have been a lynching. If there would have been a lynching.
And what happened?
As usual, very little. So we kept complaining until about 3 years ago. Then the council called us in and turned around and says, "Oh, we don't know what you keep complaining about." But unbeknownst to them, the Under-Secretary of State had been up in the area for a week, and she came in and said that there was too many HMOs, illegal immigrants, and that in the Roker Avenue area, right? And that the people that we had in Roker Avenue are supposed to be spread out of all of Sunderland, not put all in one place. Now, I say the crime's gone up. Women and young girls frightened to walk the streets now. Because, well, as I say, you've had rapes, we've had knivings, we've had gang fights between the coloureds and that.
Okay, right.
Yeah, and it's getting worse and worse and worse.
Okay, we have to leave it there. Thank you for joining us, and thanks for coming down. I saw you earlier on, Betty Shergold. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
So as you can see, passion's running high here in the Gunners Club. Plenty more to come throughout the rest of the show. Don't go anywhere.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries, all sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you or anyone you know is heading further afield this weekend, it's going to be very wet in northern Italy and Slovenia. Fine elsewhere, just 1 or 2 showers for the Canaries, a brisk breeze for Madeira. That breeze actually bringing some warmth to Portugal, into parts of Spain as well. But it's for northern Italy into Slovenia, parts of Croatia. We're going to see some very wet weather over the next few days, that transferring southeast into parts of Greece early next week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
It's a really nice idea to get the public involved, and it's our notes, isn't it? So why shouldn't the public have to say on who's on notes? And it's not just people; it's also places, and anything particularly British. I mean, I'd like to see Big Ben on some notes, which is a very distinctive element of this country. Big Ben, everybody recognises Big Ben across the world. Being rather populist, I'd have the Beatles on there. The best band that we've ever had, the best band in the world ever.
For heaven's sake, not
You careful, you'll upset the viewers. Beatles are fantastic. But you want something like that which recognises the talent that's been in this country. We've had Shakespeare, of course, and we've had Winston Churchill. But let's have something a bit more up to date.
David Attenborough.
A brilliant idea.
Thank you.
Brilliant idea.
No, I've just come up with that, and I thought that was quite good. And then they also encourage ideas, nature, don't they? So I thought maybe some acorns.
Why not a beaver?
A beaver is a great idea, Claire.
2 things.
And a dam.
Two things to mention on this, right? One, you still cannot pass a Scottish note in anywhere in England, and for fear it will not be accepted as legal tender, right?
But can they not?
It is legal tender.
Of course
But it is legal. Yeah, it is legal tender. Same as an Ulster note.
Yeah.
It's all sterling. It's got the word sterling written on it and whatever. But you do find a certain resistance to...
Huge resistance. And see, the minute they start to hold it up in the air, I'm like, I'm going to get you. Just don't ignite.
When I came back from Aberdeen last time, full of Scottish notes, and I went into shops, I didn't have any resistance, and I was ready for it, though. I was ready for it. I was going to say, well, take it or leave it.
It's legal tender.
It's legal tender.
Yeah, but the other thing is it not the Bank of England that wants to remove the historical characters on the notes? I mean, who actually uses cash? I prefer to use cash.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Martin Daubney Show here with me, Alex Armstrong at GB News HQ. Well, a major Supreme Court ruling that's happening imminently has opened the floodgates for billions in compensation as millions of UK motorists may have been missold car finance through hidden commission deals. It's being called the next PPI scandal, and the industry is bracing for impact. We can now speak to barrister at Harker's Parker, Nate Barber. Nate, thank you very much. Just while you're on screen, so the audience knows what's going on, that is the ruling happening there on the screen for our audience at home. Nate, the implications of this are massive. What should people at home know about this?
Yeah, absolutely, Alex. So some analysts think that compensation could be in the sum of £44 billion. Now, if you think about PPI, that was a massive scandal that took place. That was only £38 billion in terms of compensation. So this could really be a very significant event and a huge scandal across the industry, affecting millions of people who bought cars.
Yeah, and could maybe just give a little bit of background for those who aren't familiar with the story. How did this happen in the first place? Many people be left scratching their heads to think, well, how on earth did this secret commission take place in the first place? Why was there no transparency around it for consumers?
Yeah, and that's hugely the issue, right, Alex, is that people weren't being told how much they were going to be charged in terms of commission. I mean, in these three instant cases, what happened was that these people went into their car dealer, said, I wanted a car, and the dealer turned around and said, oh, great, I can also sort out finance for you. But what they weren't told was the fact of, for example, in one of the cases, that 25% of what they were going to be paying was actually commission that was going back to the dealer and was being paid to the dealer for sorting out this finance for them.
Yeah, shocking stuff. Many people at home will have cars, I'm sure, watching. What should they do? People at home, what should they do if they think they might have been or may be part of a compensation claim in the future?
Well, the FCA said that they might be launching a sort of redress scheme, although details of that have been vague. There's more information on our website at harkersparker.co.uk, where we sort of set out the facts and set out how you can go about claiming compensation.
Yeah, and will the government, do you believe the government will be acting now to avoid future things like this happening?
Yeah, hopefully in respect of future issues, the government will step in and the regulator will step in at a much earlier stage. In respect of the motor finance issues, there has been some rumours about the government stepping in, but at the moment there hasn't been any clear indication on that. As you said, the judgment is currently being handed down and we'll have to wait and see what happens.
Now, I appreciate you're not a motorist expert, but what sort of implications might this lead to for the wider motor industry?
Well, I think they need to be much clearer in respect of the charges that are being applied to people when they take out finance. And we're already seeing that in the industry, brokers being much more upfront in respect of what they're charging their customers, and people having the opportunity to really shop around and see whether or not they're getting a good deal with the car that they're buying.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Nate Barber there, a barrister at Harcus Parker. Thank you very much for joining us. Still to come, we're crossing live back to Sunderland, where Martin Daubney will be reflecting on last summer's riots a year on. Do people in these communities finally feel listened to? I'm Alex Armstrong. Martin's going to be back with you shortly, but now it's time for your weather. Sorry.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello again, I'm here with your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Now, tomorrow's looking largely fine, but on Sunday we have a band of heavy rain pushing through, and then on Monday, Storm Floris is going to bring some very windy weather. But for the time being, there's actually a ridge of high pressure to the southwest that's pushing its way in, and this is going to lead to today's showers fizzling out and clearing away as we go through this evening and the start of the night, leaving things largely dry and largely clear, the exception being across parts of the far east of England, East Anglia, a bit more cloud here and some showery rain pushing through as well. Elsewhere, where we get those clear skies, it is going to be a fresher night than of late. Temperatures away from the towns and cities dipping into single digits, but across parts of the east of England staying that little bit milder because of the cloud here. And there will be some further spells of showery rain as we go through tomorrow morning, particularly still across East Anglia, maybe into Kent as well. Most other places, though, having a fine start to the day. Yes, a fresher start than of late, but lots of sunshine around, just one or two showers perhaps. Most of us not seeing any showers. It is looking largely dry. As we go through into the afternoon, we are going to see the cloud bubbling up a little bit, so not quite so much sunshine, but nonetheless there will be some decent sunny spells, and in the sunshine and with generally light winds, it's going to feel pretty warm. Temperatures are going to be a little bit higher than today. We're looking at highs of around 24, 25 Celsius towards the south and high teens or low 20s further north. Staying fine for many as we go through the end of the day tomorrow, but towards the northwest there is some cloud that's going to push its way in, and there's some rain ready to arrive as well. This rain is going to be pretty heavy for a time as it pushes its way southeastwards across much of the country on Sunday. It could be a bit thundery at times too, but then Storm Floris arrives on Monday. This is set to bring some unseasonably strong winds, particularly in the north.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The A82 is closed at Bridge of Orkney. Drivers should find alternative routes. On the A40, maintenance involves diversions from Gibraltar tunnels to Mitchell Troy. A 40-minute delay is on the M6 southbound in Lancashire between junctions 35 and 33. Doncaster reports a broken-down vehicle on M180 westbound at junction 1. The A38 southbound in Derby is closed between junctions with A52 and A5111. In Kent, a collision on M20 eastbound between junctions 8 and 9 blocks 1 lane. And on the trains, there are disruptions on East Midlands Railway between Sleaford and Peterborough. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
This is your chance to live mortgage or rent-free for an entire year. We'll give you a cash lump sum that will cover 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, up to an incredible £20,000. Plus, we'll add £5,000 on top of that for you to treat yourself. You have to hurry though, as lines will close on the 29th of August. For a chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie's here.
I'm Michelle Duke, Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Welcome to the Martin Daubney Show here live from the Gunners Club in Sunderland. Magnificent working men's club, armed forces veterans here, and we're here today 1 year on from the riots which took place across 18 towns in the UK, fueled by the triple murder, of course, of those beautiful children in Southport by Axel Rucker-Barner. Those riots spread across towns, typified by white working class communities fed up with multiple occupancy housing, fed up with asylum seekers, fed up with being called far right by the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer. Today I'm here to take the temperature of this town to ask people in Sunderland, have things got better or have they got worse over the past year? Back to Alex.
Thank you very much, Martin. Yeah, I'm here in the studio bringing you all the latest news, debate and analysis from GB News headquarters.
It's reasonable for the public to call out and expose criminality where it occurs.
Yes, Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp tells Chopper's political podcast the British public should challenge wrongdoing and criminality. But would you step in to stop a crime? And the Supreme Court ruled that lenders are not liable for hidden commission payments in car finance schemes, avoiding having to pay. And foreign criminals flooding UK prisons. New figures reveal a surge in violent and sexual offenders from overseas. Is Britain paying the price for record high immigration? And do you know more about F1 than the symptoms of prostate cancer? Well, a new survey suggests some men can name more drivers than the signs. Well, that's all coming up next. And as always, we love hearing your views, so get them in, gbnews.com/you'll say. I'll read them out throughout the show. But now it's time for your news headlines with Tatiana Sanchez.
Alex, thank you very much. Good afternoon. The top stories. Some breaking news this hour. Lenders have avoided potentially having to pay compensation to millions of drivers after the Supreme Court has ruled this afternoon that they are not liable for hidden commission payments in car finance schemes. In October last year, the Court of Appeal ruled that secret commission payments to car dealers as part of finance arrangements made before 2021 without the motorist fully informed consent were unlawful. More on this breaking story in the next hour. In other news, it's been revealed that foreign-born prisoners account for 1 in 8 of the total UK jail population. According to official data published for the first time, the number of foreigners in prisons for serious violent, sexual and theft offences has also risen over the past year. Conservative MP Katie Lamb told GB News they should all be removed from the country.
They all need to be deported, so the Conservatives actually in Parliament tried to amend the law, the Borders Bill that the government passed earlier this year, to say that everybody who commits a crime will need to leave the country. And I and my Shadow Home Office colleagues tabled those amendments and voted for them. The government voted them down, but there is absolutely no reason to have foreign criminals in the UK.
Donald Trump's administration says it's greatly concerned after the Telegraph exposed a secretive Whitehall unit that has spied on migrant hotel critics. The Telegraph newspaper claims officials working for the Technology Secretary Peter Kyle have flagged videos with concerning narratives to social media giants, including TikTok, warning they were exacerbating tensions on the streets. Home Office Minister Dame Diana Johnson told GB News Breakfast that free speech is a cornerstone of our democracy and the Online Safety Act protects it.
No, we're not having our free speech monitored at all. And it's absolutely right that people can express their views within the law on social media. What I would say is that the police, and particularly last autumn when we had the disorder in August actually, it was absolutely right that the police should be looking and monitoring what was being put onto social media in terms of organisation of riots and have that information to allow them then to plan what they needed to provide in terms of protecting the public.
The associate political editor at The Telegraph, Tony Diver, who broke the story, spoke to GB News.
Well, the government's policy is that they don't tell social media companies that they have to take posts down. The purpose of that unit is to monitor what's being posted. In some cases, find examples of content that the government finds concerning, in their words, and point out to the companies things that they think might be a breach of their own terms of service. And so the government is able to say in response to this story, well, we haven't told anyone what to do. All we've done is been a sort of helpful pointer service, which has shown you some things that you might want to think about taking down. That's allowed them to try and avoid the accusations that they're directly censoring things.
Elsewhere, 10 men have been arrested over historic child sexual abuse offences in Bradford. The men, aged between 49 and 71, have been interviewed and bailed pending further inquiries. The allegations relate to offences which are reported to have occurred in the district between 1994 and 1997 and relate to 6 victims who were aged 13 to 15 at the time. The US has announced fresh tariffs on more than 90 countries as Donald Trump's deadline to strike trade deals passes. Tariffs on Canada are increasing from 25 to 35%. The Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney says he's disappointed. And south of the border, higher tariffs for Mexico are being paused for another 90 days, while Brazil faces a 50% levy. Tariffs on the UK remain at 10%. President Donald Trump has described Russia's actions in Ukraine as disgusting and says he will impose sanctions on Moscow. At least 15 people were killed, hundreds wounded after a barrage of Russian aerial attacks on Kyiv yesterday. Sir Keir Starmer and Volodymyr Zelensky welcomed Donald Trump's new deadline on Russia to stop their stalling tactics and make meaningful progress on a peace deal in a call today. Earlier this week, President Trump said he would hit Moscow with secondary sanctions and tariffs unless a ceasefire is agreed by the 8th of August.
Russia, I think it's disgusting what they're doing. I think it's disgusting. This is Biden's war. It's not my war. But I said if I get in, I'll try and get the thing stopped. Yeah, we're going to put sanctions. I don't know that sanctions bother him. You know, they know about sanctions. I know better than anybody about sanctions and tariffs and everything else. I don't know if that has any effect, but we're going to do it. Europe is extremely upset. But this is a war that should have never happened.
And authorities at Heathrow Airport say a third runway can be built for £21 billion within a decade. The airport has submitted plans to the government for a new full-length runway, but has insisted it's open to considering a shorter one. The West London Hub is seeking permission to open a new 3,500-metre runway to the northwest of its existing location. This would enable an additional 276,000 flights per year. And those are the latest GB News headlines for now. More news from me in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
And here's a quick snapshot of today's markets. The pound will buy you $1.3278 and €1.1504. The price of gold, £2,522.90 per ounce. And the FTSE 100 closed at 9,081 points.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Thank you, Tatiana, and welcome back to the Gunners Club in Sunderland. The Gunners Club is a proud armed forces veterans club, and I've been here today for 1 year on from those riots that broke out across 18 working class towns in Britain, and they were all typified by a very similar pattern, and it's this: low employment, low socio-economic mobility, high levels of asylum seekers being foisted on the communities, and after that triple killing in Southport by Axel Rudder-Cabana, riots broke out across Britain. One of those places was Sunderland. I walked down the High Street earlier on today where the police station was set fire to. The Citizens Advice Bureau was caved in. I came here today to ask people of all ages, men and women, all across this wonderful town, have things improved, have things stagnated, or have they got worse? And I've got to tell you this. So far, there's a feeling that people have been ignored. They're not being listened to. Worse, they're being chastised as being far right. They're sick to the back teeth. They're being told they're bad people just because they want good things for their community. Let's bring in now Mark White, GB News' home and security editor. Mark White, always a pleasure to have you on the show, of course. 1 year on, Mark. On the ground here, the mood in Sunderland is very much the same. Groundhog Day. Fed up of being called far right, and they just want to be listened to.
Indeed they do. Yeah, a great old town is Sunderland. I know it well. I hope you'll have a pint or two for me later. But they are so typical of communities right across the country who are feeling the effects of the migrant crisis, even though they are a world away from what is playing out in the English Channel because of the dispersal programme to use hotels, first of all, right around the country, hundreds of them, but now increasingly to put migrants into the heart of local communities, to use housing stock in that dispersal process, then that is really going to affect many more people than were affected before. It was bad enough, of course, when hotels were being used en masse, more than 400 at its peak. It's now down to more than 200, still unacceptably high, of course. But when you get houses of multiple occupation for houses in a local community then being turned over to be used by multiple asylum seekers, that means that it is being dispersed much more widely into communities right across the country, and that brings with it the added tensions that people have pointed out, criminality being one of them. We know that the protests that have broken out lately, most of them have been on the back of allegations of criminality involving asylum seekers at individual hotels, some of them going through the courts now and those being charged denying the charges against them. But nonetheless, it's brought home for these local communities the real concerns that they feared might be enacted by having a migrant hotel in their local area. And that's why we're going to see again this weekend, Martin, many more of these asylum protests. The Metropolitan Police confirming to us that they're going to have extra resources on duty. They are expecting one significant protest at a hotel in Islington, the Barbican Thistle Hotel, with large numbers expected there. That will have to be heavily policed, the Met say, but they're also prepared for other potential protests at other migrant hotels across London.
Mark White, a great untold story throughout all of this, of course, is that 17 of those 18 towns where there were riots also not only are highest on the social deprivation scale, but they have the highest number of asylum seekers per capita across the land. I want to paint a picture, Mark, some graphics I have now, particularly around Sunderland, where I am now. It's called Sunderland's Social Housing Emergency. It's been called that by Shelter, the homeless charity. The numbers are startling, Mark. 830 asylum seekers in social housing. Remember, that social housing that ordinarily would have been for locals. In fact, they have so many in those social houses now, Mark White, they've paused the process on the 21st of July, saying they've reached capacity. That's had a knock-on effect. 13 months now is the average waiting list for social housing if you're a local in Sunderland. Let's get to our next graphic now. The social housing waiting list has increased by an astonishing 523% in 1 year alone. And the people who want her social housing now in Sunderland alone, it's gone up from 1,400 to over 9,000. The situation now is such, Mark White, that Shelter, the strategic director for the North East, has said the housing emergency is ruining lives across the North East. Mark White, we don't hear those kind of numbers anywhere else apart from GB News, and that's the true picture here. People out on the streets telling us they can't get a social house, no matter how many years they've been on them. Veterans, local homeless people, simply feeling, Mark White, here in Sunderland and nationwide, they're simply being pushed to the back of the queue.
Well, certainly that is true, and in local authority areas right across the country, some are better than others, but all are pretty shocking in terms of the availability of the social housing for the local community. And that means, of course, apart from dire emergency accommodation required for certain individuals, and even then it can sometimes be very hard to find that emergency accommodation, the kind of social housing that would be very useful to the working population in a local area is just not being made available, because first come are the asylum seekers, and that is clearly an issue that is very unfair as far as many people in local communities are concerned. And just add to that, Martin, the issues over not being able to get GP's appointments, your children into local schools, and all the other strains on the fabric of your community. It's no wonder that there are so many tensions in communities right across the country.
Thank you, Mark White. Excellent as ever. Now let's get to my next guest here in the Gunners Club. I'm going to sit down with the independent local councillor, Donna Thomas. Donna, welcome to GB News. Can I first ask you, I know you do a lot of community engagement work, particularly with young people. How did it make you feel a year ago when you saw the streets of Sunderland on fire?
Scared, really scared. Talking to the young people that I work with, it was a bit of a game for them. It was a bit of excitement. They didn't realise the consequences that would become of it. We tried to explain that the only way that things can change in this country is through legislation. But when you've got people that don't feel your government's listening to you, or the people in power are listening to you, you can understand why the frustration tipped over. Now, the vast majority of people that went to the protest were there to protest. They were there to try and hear their voices being heard. Was the few that was going to cause trouble wherever it was. And unfortunately, that's what gets the attention. I don't feel as though it's got much better. We're still not being listened to. The people are still not being listened to. If you try to have a conversation, we have what I call bull poo bingo. Shouts of racist, bigot, you're thick, you're this, that and the other. No, we have to have an open conversation about what basically is, and we cannot continue doing this.
And Donna Thomas, one thing I noticed walking around Sunderland today, as is typical in so many working class parts of Britain, barber shops, nail spas, vape shops, a lot of posh cars parked outside them, Donna Thomas, not many customers inside.
It's scary, and this is what the people, the community sees. Their high streets are changing drastically. Now, I'm independent Hetton Town Councillor. We're the only town council in the area of Sunderland. We listen to our residents, and we took our concerns to Sunderland City Council. Hetton, I think, has 3 barber shops at the moment in a very small area, and we're basically being told there's nothing that can be done about it, even though we have concerns that everything might not be quite legitimate. So if we, as a statutory government, are going saying, help, what can we do here, and we get knocked back, things have to change.
Donald Thomas, I've spoken with many people in Sunderland today, and particularly here in the Gunners. Most people here, has to be said, began their political journey on the left with the Labour Party. I believe you did too, but you've drifted away from the party. Why is that?
I was a member of the Labour Party from my beginning of my adult life until it has become a party I no longer recognise. I don't think that my ancestors, who were Labour through and through, would vote Labour nowadays, and that scares us.
Donald Thomas, Independent Councillor, thank you very much for joining us. Let's move on quickly to my next guest now, Vic Skinner, local resident Vic Skinner. Vic, you've been patiently waiting with a cold beer, it has to be said, to talk to us. Vic, why are you so keen to talk to us today? What's got you motivated by speaking to GB News today?
Well, one thing I would like to say, and I'm going to come at this from a different perspective.
Yep.
I'm born and bred in Sunderland. I remember when we were classed as the largest town in England before we got city status. Now, I look upon Sunderland as being the largest village in Sunderland, the largest village in England. So, everyone knows each other here. Everyone shares a community.
Well, they did.
No, they do. Because the turmoil that you're talking about with the riot, the word riot and Sunderland do not go together.
Right.
So they do not go together. I've never heard of this in all my life of living here.
But it happened a year ago tomorrow.
It happened, but who perpetrated it, we don't know. So the word riot and Sunderland does not go together. What I want to express is that the turmoil that we've been talking about has really happened since Brexit and 2019, when Nigel Farage stepped down and gave Boris Johnson the chance to get Brexit done.
Right. And things start to go wrong at that point for you?
Things started to go wrong at that point because, and I'm going to be blackballed here or thrown out of this club, I've been a Conservative voter all my life.
Yeah.
So when it came to 2019, we thought, great, Brexit's going to get done, everything will be achieved that we were promised, and then the Conservative government really let us down.
Because that didn't happen.
Really let us down. It didn't happen at all.
Okay, Vic, we've got to move on. I know you could talk all day, especially after a jar. I'll come back to you in a minute. Let's move on now to my next guest, and that is Bill Blackett. Bill, welcome down to the club here, the Gunners. I know you've been waiting patiently to talk to us. I want to talk to you about politics, understanding your journey. You're a Labour man through and through, but you've made a different political journey.
Yeah, I started out in a household believing in social justice, and that's what I believe in to this day. I spent time with the Labour Party. I was active during the miners' strike. I saw the miners betrayed by Labour. They didn't really want to help the working people of this country out. I even spent 6 months with the Socialist Workers' Party and saw them for the cult that they are. But in terms of why I'm here today, the only party that really believes in social justice these days is Reform. That's the only opportunity we have to change. And thinking, since we're commemorating the riots, I'm old enough to remember the riots of 1981 and how people looked into that, and we had the Scarman report, and basically the message was these people are disenfranchised. Ethnic minorities primarily were disenfranchised. 2011, the riots in London, Manchester and beyond, same message again. Let's look into the causes. The riots of last year, the far right. Yeah. Let's write them off. If governments of whichever political persuasion do not address the root causes of what happened last year, some of it was opportunistic, but there's an underlying burning issue. Mass immigration is killing public services, whether you look at housing, whether you look at work, whatever. The NHS waiting lists, and it's basically a matter for social justice. Okay. I believe in a better Britain, and the only party that's going to deliver on that is the Reform Party. Okay,
Bill Blackett, you've been round the block, so you tried all the parties, you end up with them. Yep. Bill Blackett, thank you very much. Now, earlier on in the Gunners Club, we spoke to Ger Fowler, beg pardon. He runs a veterans charity. Here's what he had to say.
We've got such a brilliant partnership with the council, Sunderland Armed Forces Partnership, which is the council, Gen 2 housing group, the uni, all the big hitters in Sunderland. We've got such a good partnership. We've just won a gold award at the Sojourn Awards, so we haven't got any homeless veterans in Sunderland.
Well,
the only time you would have a homeless veteran if you had maybe a breakdown in relationship and then you had to move in.
Okay, thank you. That's all for now from the Gunners Club. We'll be back soon. Now let's get back to studio. Here's Alex.
Thank you, Martin. A real mix of political opinions there. There you go. Well, we have approached Labour and the Liberal Democrats to appear on GB News to comment on 12 months of turmoil, but yet they are yet to respond to us. And also the Home Office have responded in talking about the housing of asylum seekers in hotels in Sunderland. They have said the government is reducing expensive hotel use as part of a complete overhaul of the asylum system. From over 400 asylum hotels open in the summer of 2023, costing almost £9 million a day, there are now less than 210, and we want them all closed by the end of this Parliament. We will continue to work closely with police and community partners across the country and discuss any concerns that they have. The security of the local communities within which these hotels are located will always be our first priority. Well, there you have it. Coming up, Keir Starmer takes on Sadiq Khan in a battle over Heathrow's third runway. Is this another Labour civil war? Well, I'm Alex Armstrong, and we will see you very soon after the break.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
Only on GB News.
You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You sound like a broken record. You say that week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens. Opinion and debate. And of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there short and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back, I'm Alex Armstrong, looking after the show here for Martin in GB News HQ. Right, well, it is a blow for motorists as lenders are avoiding paying out over the compensation claims on car finance. Lord Reed, one of the 5 justices who heard the case, said, for the reasons set out in the detail in a judgment published today, the Supreme Court allows the appeals brought by the finance companies. We can now speak with a car finance scandal victim, Dawn Havison. Dawn, I'm so sorry to hear that you're a victim of this. What does the judgment... what's your response to the judgment today?
Well, I've just glanced very briefly at the ruling, and I'm shocked, to be honest. Firstly, I didn't know I was being swindled, let's put it that way, by the loan. Then the ruling I've quickly looked at, they basically say, from my understanding of it, that the car dealers don't have any duty to the customer. So where does that leave the average person? It also mentions a Mr. Johnson, who they say was commercially unsophisticated. And I think we could say that about a lot of people when entering these extremely complex agreements, which we face on a daily basis with mobile phones, for example, all sorts of financing. It's put down onto the customer, which I find totally disproportionately unfair.
Yes, Dawn, I totally agree with you. When you look at like all these different agreements you have today, you sign all these forms, and most of the time we just go, I'm not going to read 40 pages of agreements, and the onus on the consumer is incredible. And of course, I'd like to hear...
It's nonsense, isn't it? Yeah.
It really is, Dawn. It really is. I mean, I see these terms and conditions, and masters sign them all the time, and half the time we're not going to read them, are we? But I really want to ask you, what's your response to the judgment today from the Supreme Court?
Well, I think it's completely unfair on the consumer. We see this all the time. If you turn to Ombudsman, they very rarely actually compensate you in the manner you're led to believe they might. I've unfortunately had to do those sort of things. It really is what I would call window dressing. The majority of time, we, the consumer, are misled into thinking we're protected. So we go on with these things, thinking there's going to be a recourse if there's something with the matter. The reality, time and time again, is there isn't.
Yeah, I totally hear you there, Dawn. What did it take for you to find out you had been a victim of this scandal? Because there might be many people at home scratching their heads wondering if they are too.
Exactly. Well, the only way I found out, this is the way I've financed my cars for a number of years. I have to have a reliable car. It's a minefield, the car business. There's constant scandals. There was the emissions scandal most recently. I mean, that all got brushed under the carpet. So you just know you're going into difficult territory. So I've gone in this route thinking, well, I'll be covered best. And the first thing I heard about it was, in fact, when it was reported, and as somebody entering the car industry wanted to find out how finance worked, and they were shocked to find out that it was basically rigged. So how would a normal, average person know that? They wouldn't.
Dawn, is there something people should look out for at home? Is there something that triggered you to go, something's not right here?
No, and all I can say is I relied on somebody reporting this.
Yeah.
There's no way the average person would have the time or the inclination. I mean, you don't go looking for something that's wrong when you don't think there is anything wrong. It's just as simple as that.
And briefly, Dawn, what would you like to see happen for other victims of this scandal?
I'd like the average person in the street to get compensation, to get justice. Why should these companies make money off people when they are unaware that they could possibly get a better outcome if they shopped around? I mean, it all sounds so simple when you read it in the ruling, but the reality is not that somebody is going to shop around and have the time and the knowledge to do that.
Yes. Dawn Haverson there. Thank you so much for joining us to talk about that car finance scandal there. Dawn, I hope you get at least some compensation in the end. Thank you for joining us. Plenty more to come throughout the rest of the show, but if you are now travelling from work or school, here is your traffic and travel update. And don't forget to stay with us on digital and radio.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The A82 is closed at Bridge of Orchy due to an incident with diversions set. Roadworks have shut the A40's Gibraltar tunnels to Mitchell Troy. In Lancashire, there is congestion on the M6 southbound between junctions 35 and 34. A collision on the M5 southbound between junctions 28 and 29 has one lane closed, causing 30-minute delays. All lanes are closed on the M54 eastbound at junction 2 due to a crash. A broken-down vehicle is causing disruption on the A12 northbound in Essex. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
All right, before we move on, let's get your latest news headlines with Tatiana Sanchez.
Alex, thank you. The headlines at 5:30. Lenders appear to have avoided potentially having to pay compensation to millions of drivers after the Supreme Court ruled they are not liable for hidden compensation payments in car finance schemes. It's been revealed foreign-born prisoners account for 1 in 8 of the total UK jail population. Conservative MP Katie Lamb told GB News they should all be removed from the country.
They all need to be deported. There is absolutely no reason to have foreign criminals in the UK.
Reports suggest a Whitehall spy unit is being used by the government to target social media posts criticising migrant hotels and two-tier policing. The US has announced fresh tariffs on more than 90 countries as Donald Trump's deadline to strike trade deals passes. Tariffs on the UK remain at 10%. And those are the latest headlines. For now, more news from me at 6 o'clock.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello again, I'm here with your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Now tomorrow's looking largely fine, but on Sunday we have a band of heavy rain pushing through, and then on Monday Storm Floris is going to bring some very windy weather. But for the time being there's actually a ridge of high pressure to the southwest that's pushing its way in, and this is going to lead to today's showers fizzling out and clearing away as we go through this evening and the start of the night, leaving things largely dry and largely clear, the exception being across parts of the far east of England, East Anglia, a bit more cloud here and some showery rain pushing through as well. Elsewhere, where we get those clear skies, it is going to be a fresher night than of late. Temperatures away from the towns and cities dipping into single digits, but across parts of the east of England staying that little bit milder because of the cloud here. And there will be some further spells of showery rain as we go through tomorrow morning, particularly still across East Anglia, maybe into Kent as well. Most other places, though, having a fine start to the day. Yes, a fresher start than of late, but lots of sunshine around, just 1 or 2 showers perhaps. Most of us not seeing any showers. It is looking largely dry. As we go through into the afternoon, we are going to see the cloud bubbling up a little bit, so not quite so much sunshine, but nonetheless there will be some decent sunny spells, and in the sunshine and with generally light winds it's going to feel pretty warm. Temperatures are going to be a little bit higher than today. We're looking at highs of around 24, 25 Celsius towards the south and high teens or low 20s further north. Staying fine for many as we go through the end of the day tomorrow, but towards the northwest there is some cloud that's going to push its way in, and there's some rain ready to arrive as well. This rain is going to be pretty heavy for a time as it pushes its way southeastwards across much of the country on Sunday. It could be a bit thundery at times too, but then Storm Floris arrives on Monday. This is set to bring some unseasonably strong winds, particularly in the north.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back to the Gunners Club here in Sunderland for our final hit. The Veterans Club here in Sunderland. We're speaking to the locals here. Magnificent day in Sunderland. Trying to get to the bottom of what sparked those riots 1 year ago exactly. 18 towns across Britain erupted after the triple killing, of course, of those beautiful children in Southport by Axel Rudder-Cabal. I'm here today to find out if history could repeat itself, to talk about the extraordinary impact of uncontrolled immigration on towns like Sunderland that lost their shipbuilding industry, lost the coal mining industry, and nothing ever replaced it. And instead, a huge amount of asylum seekers foisted on the area, 830. It's a city of sanctuary. Locals had no voice, had no say, had no power of veto. Let's talk to one of those residents now. I'm joined by Billy Charlton. Billy, thanks for coming down to speak to us at GB News today. Billy, I want to talk about that extraordinary impact we're hearing from so many people today of asylum seekers being foisted upon your area. How's the area changed?
The place is unrecognisable now from what it was to now. Just a few years ago, you just can't even recognise it. The place has been flooded. It's just beyond belief. Nobody can believe what's actually going on around us. We don't know who these people are, where they're from, and they're just stuck in amongst our communities. And the tensions are rising because these people are just appearing from nowhere.
Okay, thank you very much. And let's get our next guest in now. Ellie, you're a local resident, you're a nano, and we spoke with you earlier on. You spoke very, very passionately about how you don't feel as safe anymore, how your girlfriends don't feel as safe anymore. Just echo that sentiment again for our viewers, if you could,
I don't feel safe, but I tell you what I don't feel safe about Labour Council, because I haven't got a freedom of speech. I want my freedom of speech. I want to fly my flag, do what I want in my own city. I can't do it. I can't do it. And I can't protect my children either. And they all sit there in City Hall and bloody lie. So can somebody tell me why we've got a Muslim mayor?
Very careful.
I know. I watch GBNews. News. I know. But where were we asked about that?
We weren't asked.
We were never asked. We were never asked. And I'm sorry, a young lad who was a mayor is not... have you ever been asked by the mayor if, like, are your streets saved? Because I don't think they are.
Okay, Ellie, you've been, as I understand it, before recently, you're a Labour supporter for a lot of your life.
Yeah,
most people I've spoken to in Sunderland today, has to be said, were.
I went to Reform and Reform. Do you know what Reform is? And I think you need to interview the young Reform candidates, because that's the future of Reform.
Oh, hang on a second.
And the horse, exactly. Guess where you are.
There you go. Let's get this. Let's get gentlemen. Hello, sir. What's your name, sir?
Tom.
Tom. So you're a veteran and you're homeless. Is that right?
I'm not homeless. But I'm a veteran.
You're a veteran. Okay. Tell us about how you feel your country treats veterans now.
Not very good. Not very good. No.
And how does it make you feel, having put your life on the line for your country, to feel not very good about it now?
Sickening. Sickening, really. Aye.
And we're hearing a lot today about how this community has changed.
It's a fourth reg gunner. Fourth reg gunner. This is what the fourth reg is. My dad went to Northern Ireland, everywhere. But I tell you what, You're standing here and you think, oh my God, this country is going to the dogs. They're letting if my dad was alive now, letting them in. And if he knew his granddaughter was unsafe, that's why he went to war for.
Okay.
He went to Yemen.
Okay. I'm being told we have to move on. Simply run out of time. Ellie, thank you so much, and thank you so much for talking to us today. Thank you very much from the Gunners Club. It's getting lively here. It's getting hot. Thank you very much. Back to the studio.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you or anyone you know is heading further afield this weekend, it's going to be very wet in northern Italy and Slovenia. Fine elsewhere, just 1 or 2 showers for the Canaries, a brisk breeze for Madeira. That breeze actually bringing some warmth to Portugal and to parts of Spain as well. But it's for northern Italy into Slovenia, parts of Croatia. We're going to see some very wet weather over the next few days, that transferring southeast into parts of Greece early next week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
In London alone, 80,000 smartphones were stolen just last year. And organised crime groups are also stealing the devices in bulk with violent robberies at phone shops.
So Mark White, Mark's our Home and Security editor. He's put together this report and he's been given exclusive access to the flying squad's operation. So let's have a look.
We're on board with these officers from South East London as they prepare to rendezvous with the team from the Met's flying squad. Their target, an organised crime group suspected of involvement in a series of violent robberies. The gang's believed to have struck mobile phone shops in more than a dozen different locations, stuffing holdalls full of high-value smartphones in each raid. This is rare access. The flying squad is the Met's elite robbery and kidnap unit, dealing with some of the country's most hardened criminals. Please open the door, it's going in! Inside are the 2 suspects they're looking for.
We'll come down and speak to him just 2 seconds, all right? You're under arrest for mobile phone shops between March and June 2025.
As a drug sniffer dog arrives to help search the property, other officers find what they think is a small packet of drugs thrown from a bedroom window.
It's quite cocaine.
Well, it's just after 6 a.m. and the 2 suspects at this address have had a rather rude awakening. Raids are also happening at another dozen addresses around this area.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Martin Daubney Show. I'm looking after the show here in studio at GB News HQ. I promised I'd read out some of your comments, so I've got them here. Let me read through some of these. Rob has said this: it's deeply concerning that veterans who've served their country are often unable to access accommodation and are pushed to the back of the queue. They deserve better support and priority when it comes to housing and essential services. Rob, I think you're absolutely spot on, and we're one of the only countries that treats our veterans like this. You go to America, there are people who will salute them as they walk past. They have discounts, they get priority for jobs. They are treated like actual heroes, the way it should be, and I think our country consistently lets down our veterans. We need to do better. Humpty here says the use of houses instead of hotels makes the matter even worse. Are we placing illegal migrants into residentials, and is this really the solution? I don't think it is, because you're just moving the problem from hotels to people's streets at home. That for me is deeply concerning. We saw what happened in Northern Ireland not that long ago. So I don't think this is really solving the problem, despite the government are saying, absolutely, yes, we've got people out of hotels, but they're actually just moving the problem somewhere else. So I suspect there's going to be more on that. Sid here says, bad enough jumping the housing queue, but people seem to forget it's not just housing, it's free furniture, TVs, Wi-Fi, phones, TV licence, cooker, fridge. And in my local area, it's also gym classes and yoga. And these are things that most ordinary Brits would say, yeah, I'll do that for free if you give it to me, I'll do it for free. And again, at the back of the queue, and that is what doesn't cut through the British public, and I don't understand why politicians don't get this. This is one of the things that Trump has done extremely well in America, is he has put America first, and that is why he won that landslide election. John here says, afternoon, Alex. I've never known a country to be so depressed in all my life. You've got people who are reducing what they're watching because it's so depressing, and so much is Britain is bleeding. Is basically it's a long paragraph here. But I also agree. But look, I think that the window is shifting. People are waking up, and a change is coming to Britain. So don't be depressed. You've got to turn that frustration into votes at your ballot box and vote for people who will change the country. But all right, let's move on, shall we? Gentlemen, are you checking your engines at home? Some men know more about Formula One than signs of prostate cancer. A new survey reveals 27% of men could name more F1 drivers than what the symptoms were for prostate cancer. Well, I can now speak with specialist Professor Carol Sikora. Carol, thank you very much for joining me. Listen, this is quite a shocking statistic. And, prostate cancer is a big killer of men, and it can be sometimes a silent killer. What should we take away from this?
I think it's amazing. The article today in the Telegraph about it, that F1 is more commonly known about than prostate cancer. Quite frankly, a study 25 years ago in the British Medical Journal showed that 70% of men didn't know where the prostate gland was. Wow. Even the politicians pronounce it wrong. They call it prostrate rather than prostate. So, the campaign in the Telegraph today is about doing PSA screening. PSA stands for prostate-specific antigen. It's shed into the blood if you have cancer. It's a double-edged sword, though, because everybody over 70 is listening to this. About 65% of people over 70 actually have prostate cancer, but it won't cause them any trouble. And what we have to do is identify those cancers that are going to cause trouble, like Mr. Hoy's cancer, for example, that's causing him a lot of trouble. We need to look at young people with aggressive cancers and pick those up early. And that seems a reasonable campaign.
Yes, and what should we do, Professor? Because, many people point to the government that they need to do an awareness campaign or something like that. What can be done?
I think we could introduce PSA screening for those men that want to, and it's there. If you go to your GP and say you've read about it, you'd like to do a PSA test, it's very simple. You can do other blood tests at the same time. And the problem is it picks up a lot of marginal elevations that have to be sorted out. So you then need some form of scan, a magnetic resonance scan, and then maybe a biopsy.
Right.
But it's worth doing. Men are notorious for not coming forward. Women are great.
Indeed.
Women with breast cancer now are detected very early. It's totally transformed over the last 30 years.
Professor Sikora, that's brilliant, and I hope we can get there. Please come back on and talk to me about this more in the future before we run out of time here. But thank you for coming on. We will speak more about this. As cancer specialist there, Professor Carol Sikora. Well, now I'm also joined by political commentator Andy Twelves to talk about this 12 months on, what's happening in Sunderland, Andy. Do you think the government are listening?
I think the government are listening, but I don't think they're acting. I think that's the issue. I think, the viewers and the kind of contributors there in Sunderland, I think they're not wrong to feel like this. You know, this isn't just in the last year that they've been feeling like this. This goes back to the 80s, you know, when their industry was stripped away by the Thatcher and major governments. It wasn't replaced by the Blair and Brown governments. They were focusing on the South and the new towns. Then the austerity cuts came in the Cameron years, and then the whole Brexit kind of disaster in Westminster, where they felt like they weren't being respected and their voice wasn't being respected. This isn't just about migration. This is a lack of respect and a lack of understanding these post-industrial communities, one of which I'm from, over the last 40 years.
Yeah, and you know, lots of I was listening in, of course, to Martin's brilliant interviews there with ordinary people, many of them saying that they generationally have voted for the Labour Party, but they can't stomach doing that now. What does Sir Keir Starmer and the Labour Party need to do to re-win those people's votes back?
I think Keir Starmer just needs to show that he's listening to them and he needs to act on it. I think, you know, Keir Starmer does come from one of these kind of communities. He's from Leeds. Do you know what I mean? He is a working class guy. His dad was a toolmaker, famously, in fact. I think he just needs to, rejuvenate their high streets, give them back industry, give them back purpose, give them back a sense of community, and not create any more division.
We've got Nigel Farage. He's the people's champion now, isn't he? He's the man taking over what you on the left should be doing.
Nigel Farage is, you know, he claims to be this champion of the working class. He is the only person standing in the way of this reindustrialisation, this green reindustrialisation in post-industrial communities. His reforms, what are they going to do for working class people? They might, you know, deport a few migrants, but fundamentally the British social contract will still be broken. People outside of London will still have far less opportunities than those inside of London. Nigel Farage is not expected to understand this. He's a posh boy from the South. He doesn't get what it's like. He can focus his anger and he understands the anger of working class people very well, but he's not going to help them.
So who's going to do that? Is it going to be Jeremy Corbyn? Is he the man to look to in the future? Is he the working class hero that people are waiting for?
No, I don't think so at all. I think the Labour government have the best chance at doing anything. The green reindustrialisation will offer purpose.
What about Angela Rayner then?
I think Angela Rayner is Deputy Prime Minister. Angela Rayner is. She's Deputy Prime Minister. She's the Secretary of State for Local Government and Upskilling. I think she's.
So you think she'd be well placed to win back working class people's votes?
I think the combination between her and the wider Labour cabinet is a great combination. Yeah.
OK, and what would you do? What do you think the government should do to regenerate those areas that have been left behind? And I agree with you, they've been left behind for decades. And it's not just in Sunderland; it's across the whole country. Any working class area has been completely forgotten about.
Yeah. I think, you know, these newly established combined authorities. You've got one in the East Midlands, West Midlands, North East, Greater Manchester. They just need greater money, greater investment. In Greater Manchester, you've seen this really incredible revival around the city centre and those kind of boroughs in Greater Manchester. You know, better transport links, better apprenticeships, better opportunities. Andy Burnham, you know, across the political spectrum, people think he's done a fantastic job in Manchester for upskilling. I think that's what we need to do. We need to invest in our local services and we need to prioritise British people.
Very briefly then, trade unions, they're quite high on Angela's agenda. I know she's been pushed out of one of them, but she seems to have quite a lot of them around. I know the press reports about this week. Is that another answer for working class people?
I think trade unions have historically been a friend of the working class, absolutely. I think, you know, the greatest achievements of the working class and the privileges that they've been given have been achieved by the trade unions. Minimum wage, health and safety, decent working hours, weekends, statutory maternity leave. All these things have been trade union campaigns, and I think, you know, we just need to figure out what's next for them.
And what would your message be? You know, you're a man who's, you know, isn't afraid to say you're on the left.
Yeah.
What would your message be to the left to win these people back?
Stop talking like nutters. Just talk like normal people. Talk their language. Talk about the issues that they care about. Don't be scared about talking about migration. Migration feels like it's been an issue for lots of people. Engage with them. Don't just dismiss them as racist. Talk to them.
And policy-wise, what else can we do?
I think there just needs to be a mass reindustrialisation of Britain, and we need to get rid of the backlog so we can start removing these people in the hotels from our communities when they're not right to be there. If they are genuine asylum seekers, they should be housed. I think a lot of British people would have respect and time for them. But for those that are faking it, we need to remove the backlog and get them out.
OK, and any other final words to your colleagues on the left who are hemorrhaging the working class support to Nigel Farage?
I think, you know, just talk like normal people. Stop talking like southern poshos.
OK.
That's the key bit.
All right.
That's the key bit.
Well, listen, you've heard it there from Andy 12s. Well, before we hand over to Jubes & Co, let's say goodbye to Martin Daubney in Sunderland. Martin.
Well, guys, got to say, it's been a hugely emotional day here in Sunderland. 1 year on from the riots that rocked this town and 17 others across the United Kingdom. I've been speaking to veterans, to locals, business owners, politicians, councillors. They're all united in one thing. They want change. They want the country to change. They want to be listened to. They want to stop being called racist. They want to stop being called far right. They believe in communities like this. They love communities like this. They want hope for communities like this. But it doesn't help when they're told by the powers that be, particularly the Prime Minister Keir Starmer, they're bad people. They're not bad people. They want good things. The areas they believe have been let down by central government. They've had immigrants forced upon them, asylum seekers forced upon them. They never had a say, they never had a voice, they never had a veto. Beautiful people here in Sunderland today. It's been fantastic. Alex Armstrong, thanks for holding the fort all week. Thanks to my wonderful crew here today. We're back in London on Monday. Till then, have a great weekend. Here's your weather.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good evening, this is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. Road users face UK-wide delays today. The A82 is shut at Bridge of Orchy after a serious incident, extending travel times. The A40 will be closed from Gibraltar tunnels to Mitchell Troy for maintenance. A lane of the M180 at Junction 1 in Doncaster is blocked by a broken down vehicle. On the M5 in Devon, a road collision affects one lane, causing 20-minute delays. And on the trains, buses replace East Midlands Railway trains between Sleaford and Peterborough, with Great Northern disruptions between London and Stevenage. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Let us take on some of your financial stresses and pay your mortgage or rent for the next 12 months. We want to give you a cash lump sum equivalent to 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, up to an unbelievable £20,000. We'll also boost that by a further £5,000, so you really could have some fun in the coming year. For a chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in